Chapter 16:10. Sorry, I'm busy with work. I don't have much time. Okay. Sun Min wasn't surprised that Chen Zhao had rejected her invitation. Is that woman yours? Sister-in-law, Chen Zhao said. Sun Min was speechless. She'd thought that Alex was Chen Zhao's girlfriend or wife. She didn't expect her to be Chen Zhao's sister-in-law. What a pity. It's rare to meet an old friend in a foreign place. I'll only be abroad for half a month. If I miss this chance, I don't know when I'll see you again. Hearing Sun Min's words, Chen Zhao thought to himself, then let's never meet again. Of course, Chen Zhao wouldn't say that. There will always be a chance. Chen Zhao would rather meet a high school classmate like Li Qiong. He didn't want to have a meal with Sun Min either. Li Qiong was utilitarian, but everyone was like that. But from Sun Min's tone, Chen Zhao felt that she was giving him charity. Moreover, Chen Zhao's impression of Sun Min had already been ruined when they broke up. Something like being friends after breaking up. That was pure bullshit. Chen Zhao didn't believe it. Okay, I won't disturb you anymore. We'll talk next time. Sun Min hung up decisively. Chen Zhao was considering if he should change his number. But then he realized that it was too troublesome. Nowadays, a phone number was related to too many things. After thinking for a long time, Chen Zhao gave up on the idea. Changing his phone number just for Sun Min was a big price to pay. Plus, he could just blacklist her number. If she called again and couldn't get through after 1 or 2 tries, she should understand. Just then, a car entered Mingyue Villa. However, the car stopped on the highway above the beach. Chen Zhao looked over and saw Colon get out of the car. Colon was very unwilling, very, very unwilling. Especially after Chen Zhao's sneak attack in the morning. So, he went straight to Chen Zhao's house. He wanted to take revenge on Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao took the elevator down to the beach. This time, Colon was full of vigor. He believed that he wouldn't lose this time. There was a reason why he'd lost the last few times. The first time, he hadn't awakened. The second time, he'd used too much energy. The third time was this morning, when he was ambushed by this guy. But things were different now. He had already recovered. Moreover, there was no chance for Chen Zhao to launch a sneak attack now. Kid, why are you here again? Chen Zhao looked at Colon, both annoyed and amused. Why didn't this brat learn his lesson? However, it could still bring him some fun. I'm not who I used to be. When was the past? Cut the crap. Come, this time I'll let you attack me first, Kellen said as he hooked his finger. I'll attack you first. Are you sure? Of course, don't say I didn't give you a chance, Kellen boasted shamelessly. If you lose this time, I will throw you into the sea to feed the sharks. I'll also throw you into the sea to feed the sharks. Colon was not to be outdone. Okay, then I won't hold back. Chen Zhao clenched his fists. Come, this time I'll make sure you won't even be able to touch my body, Kellen said confidently. Chen Zhao charged at Colon. Colon held his breath and stared at Chen Zhao's moderate speed. He sneered inwardly. He could dodge this speed with his eyes closed. Watch my left uppercut. Kellen watched as Chen Zhao raised his left arm and moved his body. However, just as he moved, he felt a sudden pain in his stomach. Kellen clutched his stomach and fell onto the sand. You're too despicable. How am I despicable? Chen Zhao grinned at Kellen. Kid, you're still too young. Fighting isn't that simple. You're despicable. If you didn't say anything, I wouldn't have fallen for it. Okay, I'll give you another chance. Rest and we'll fight again later. It was rare to have someone to waste time with. Chen Zhao didn't plan on letting Kellen go. Chen Zhao didn't use too much strength in that punch. Otherwise, Kellen would probably be bedridden for a few more days. Holding his stomach, Kellen sat on the sand and sulked. After a while, Kellen suddenly jumped up and pounced at Chen Zhao without a word. Earlier, he'd been ambushed by Chen Zhao repeatedly. It wasn't too much for him to ambush Chen Zhao now. That was what Kellen thought. However, Chen Zhao saw Kellen charging at him. He suddenly grabbed a handful of sand and tossed it. "Aw! My eyes!" Thud. Chen Zhao kicked Kellen away. "You're too despicable. You actually ambushed me," Chen Zhao criticized Kellen seriously. "You ambushed me before. Why don't you say you're despicable?" "But I succeeded, so I'm in the right." "You didn't succeed, so you're in the wrong." "What kind of bullshit is that?" Kellen almost spat blood in anger. "I won, so I'm in the right. Isn't that reason enough?" Kellen stood up again, unconvinced. This time, he'd learned his lesson. When he charged forward, he hid a handful of sand in his hand. To be honest, Kellen had been led astray by Chen Zhao. However, before he could reach Chen Zhao lifted his foot and kicked up another patch of sand. "Aw! My eyes!" Thud. Kellen was about to cry. Why were there such despicable people in the world? Kellen scrambled into the sea. After a while, he could barely open his eyes. But now, they were completely bloodshot. "Come here." Kellen looked at Chen Zhao. He wouldn't touch the beach no matter what. Here, the seawater could wash over him. Chen Zhao couldn't use sand to trick him anymore. Chen Zhao walked to the area where the waves washed over him. "You think you can beat me here? I won't lose this time." Kellen gritted his teeth and stared at Chen Zhao. "Then come." Chen Zhao crooked his finger at him. This time, Kellen didn't hide his strength anymore. His speed suddenly exploded. Chen Zhao was surprised. Spiritualist. This kid was actually a spiritualist. But this kid's magic power was really weak. Did he have 100 magic power points? Plus, he seemed to be an enhanced spiritualist that favored speed. But on this muddy beach, his speed was much slower. It would be good if he could use 60 to 70% of his original speed. Kellen charged to Chen Zhao, but Chen Zhao still didn't move. It seemed that when Chen Zhao really used his speed, Kellen couldn't react at all. Kellen thought gleefully. Kellen raised his right arm and swung it at Chen Zhao's face. But just then, Chen Zhao suddenly grabbed Kellen's right arm and threw him over his shoulder. Kellen screamed in pain and was thrown 3 to 4 meters away. With a splash, he fell into the waves. Kellen choked on seawater several times before climbing up pathetically. "You! How can you keep up with my movements?" Chapter 16:11. Chen Zhao smiled. Colin looked at Chen Zhao's evil smile. "You're not the only special person in this world." Colin's heart tightened. He understood what Chen Zhao meant. "You too. Cut the crap. Didn't you want to defeat me?" Colin finally didn't dare to be careless anymore. He no longer thought that Chen Zhao's earlier defeat was a coincidence or a trick. Chen Zhao had never been serious from start to finish. "Come on, what are you waiting for? Do it." Colin took a deep breath and used all his magic power. "Ah!" Roaring, Colin charged at Chen Zhao. Bang! Colin hadn't touched Chen Zhao yet. Chen Zhao's fist flew toward him. Colin's body flew more than 10 meters in the sea. Colin's mind was a mess. The punch had destroyed his confidence. The seawater washed Colin back to Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao grabbed Colin by the back of his collar and threw him on the beach. Kid, I like you. Chen Zhao's words scared Colin. Colin felt the muscles on his butt suddenly contract. Chen Zhao's face darkened. It's not what you think. What is it? Do you want to feed the sharks? I don't want to. Colin answered honestly. Then come here every day and spend an hour or two with me. Okay, Colin answered decisively. But in his heart, he was thinking that after leaving today, he would never appear before Chen Zhao again. He would rather die than come here and embarrass himself. At least not in a short period of time. The difference between them was too obvious. Colin wasn't an idiot. Are you thinking of never coming back after you leave this time? No. I didn't think so. It's fine. I have a way to make you come find me tomorrow, Chen Zhao said nonchalantly. Colin's heart trembled. Chen Zhao was also a spiritualist. Chen Zhao probably had a spell that Colin didn't know about that could control him. Yes, it's what you're thinking. I'll cast a spell on you. Only I can undo it. Colin was scared out of his wits. Stop messing with me, you're the one who delivered yourself to me. You said that I let you off the few times you provoked me. Since you've taken the initiative, I have to show you my respect. I don't need your respect, please don't show me any respect. Colin wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Right, what's your name? Colin. Okay. Colin, here, put this on. Chen Zhao tossed Colin a boxing outfit. What do you want? Colin was not having it. Aren't you here to be my sparring partner? If that's the case, how can I reject you? Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. Put it on and practice with me for 2 hours. I don't want. What sparring partner? It was just getting beaten up. Don't want it. It doesn't matter. Since you want to spar with me, I don't mind either. Colin decisively put on his boxing suit. However, as soon as he put it on, he realized something. The boxing suit was very heavy. The cotton seemed to be wrapped in metal. The entire suit weighed at least a few dozen kilograms. Not to mention other things, just the 2 baffles alone weighed 20 kilograms. Why is it so heavy? Oh, there's a titanium plate inside, Chen Zhao said. In fact, compared to most metals, titanium was actually quite light. Okay, come on, stand up straight, Chen Zhao said. Colin wanted to cry. Chen Zhao tried 2 punches, both of which were extremely light. Colin didn't feel that it was too heavy. He tossed away the negative emotions in his mind and started to treat it seriously. Raise the baffles higher with both hands, Chen Zhao reminded. Whoosh, 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 Chen Zhao's punches were extremely fast. Colin realized that Chen Zhao's punching speed wasn't any slower than his. No, more accurately, it was much faster than his punching speed. Are you a speed spiritualist too? Colin asked. While punching, Chen Zhao shook his head. No, I'm more inclined toward strength. How is that possible? You're so fast. After strengthening strength, I can release strength into every muscle in my body. Of course, the potential energy I can release is greater than a normal person. But I can only feel your speed, not your strength. Of course, Chen Zhao didn't use any strength at all. He was just trying to control his strength and speed. If he just punched quickly, Colin might not even be able to leave a piece of flesh intact. You want to taste my punch? Colin thought for a moment. He was already wearing such a heavy defensive suit with metal plates inside. What was there to be afraid of? Come, let me test your true strength. Chen Zhao didn't want to kill Colin. Get ready. I'm ready. Come. Don't separate your feet. Put them back. How can I stand if I don't? I'm afraid I'll break your heels. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. Are you really that strong? Colin didn't believe it. Put them back, put them back. Fine. With that, Chen Zhao punched out. Chen Zhao's control of strength was extremely clever. The moment his fist landed on the baffle, Chen Zhao retracted his strength. Colin's body felt light. He floated up and flew more than 10 meters away. Colin wanted to climb up, but he realized that his arms couldn't support him. His hands kept shaking. The baffle had also deformed, revealing the metal plate hidden in the cotton. Colin turned pale with fright. What a powerful strength. He didn't believe it at first, but now he did. If he didn't have this shield, Chen Zhao's punch would have definitely killed him. Sir, teach me how to use magic. Practice hard. There's no technique. You'll understand after practice, Chen Zhao said calmly. I'm already working hard. How? I run 10 kilometers every day. What, you don't believe me? I do. But for you, is running 10 kilometers every day considered hard work? Why not? If you run 100 kilometers every day, then that's hard work. 100 kilometers? How is that possible? I can't spend all my time running. Then I can't help it. How about you participate in more unconventional battles? Chen Zhao said. That way, you'll be more familiar with how to use your strength. Sir, do you fight often? Yes, I do. Then, next time you fight, bring me along. Chen Zhao shook his head. We're too weak. You're not suitable to face the opponents I choose. Chen Zhao wouldn't participate in the supernatural organization's missions. Opponents that required Chen Zhao's help were basically terrifying enemies. Chen Zhao didn't think that Colin had the right to participate. He might not even be qualified to watch. Please remember this book's domain name, 9 Heavens Divine Emperor Mobile Version. Chapter 1612. Mr. Risfar, your price is too high. If our company follows your price, we won't have any profit to speak of. Sun Min looked at Risfar. Sun Min worked for a foreign trade company. This time, she was representing the company to negotiate with Risfar. Risfar was a giant in the shipping industry, but his price was too high. I can't do anything about that. Oil prices have been rising for the past 6 months. If I keep the original price, my company won't have any profit either. It wasn't that Risfar wanted to make things difficult for Sun Min, but it was difficult to do business in this world. Especially in the shipping industry, it had always been suppressed by oil prices. If oil prices were high, he had to raise the price. Why did oil prices determine almost all goods in the world? Because oil prices determined the price of shipping, and the shipping price of merchants' goods increased. Thus, they had to raise the price of high-quality goods to maintain their own profits. In China, the property market also determined the price of goods in the mainland. The logic was the same. Risfar had actually started to invest in other industries recently. For example, the hotel business partnership with Dell. Now, their first hotel could be said to be in full swing. It could even be said to be very successful. The huge profits made Risfar want to immediately abandon the shipping industry and turn to the hotel industry. Of course, after calming down, Risfar thought more. The success of the first hotel and the huge profits made him forget everything. However, the success of the first hotel didn't mean that the second and third would be successful. All his connections and businesses were in the shipping industry. If he rashly changed the industry and abandoned the business he was most familiar with, selling the shipping industry that he was most familiar with would be neglecting the essentials. The shipping industry couldn't make a lot of money at the moment. But the advantage was obvious. It wouldn't depreciate. That was the advantage of the shipping industry. No matter what, he wouldn't lose money. Because no matter how high the oil prices were, he still had to ship things. But the hotel industry was different. If he made a lot of money, if he made a loss, then he would make a huge loss. Once a hotel made a huge loss, he would either be stubborn and hang on, or he would sell the hotel at a huge loss. If that's the case, I'm afraid we can't cooperate anymore, Sun Min said. Sun Min was threatening Risvar. After all, Risvar was not the only company in the shipping industry. Miss Sun, only my company's freighters still have empty spots on the west coast of America. The other company's freighters are basically full. Also, the shipping companies that aren't as big as my company will definitely quote a higher price than mine, unless you're willing to transfer your company's goods to other ports. But if you do that, your cost will increase again, Risvar said. It could be said that Sun Min didn't have many choices now. It could even be said that her only option now was Risvar's company. Sun Min pondered for a while and said with a smile, Mr. Risvar, don't tell me you're planning to come back empty after your cargo ship arrives at China's port. Risvar was stunned. As someone in his line of work, of course, he knew that there was a difference in cost between an empty ship and transporting goods to the shore. Miss Sun, even if your company has a company to transport, it's impossible to fill a 10,000-ton freighter. Each of Risvar's cargo ships could carry more than 10,000 containers. The cargo business that Sun Min could provide them could at most carry a few hundred to 1,000 containers. To Risvar, it could indeed save some costs, but it was far from enough for him to lower the price. A 100,000-ton freighter had to carry at least 6,000 containers to barely break even. Our company has a wide network in the mainland. Don't forget that our company's main business is foreign trade. Many companies' products go through our company, especially the foreign trade of agricultural products. I can promise you that if we can cooperate, our company can provide your cargo ship with 3,000 containers at China's port. Risvar was tempted. He pondered for a while and said, if that's the case, I can lower the price by 10%. 10%. That's not enough, Mr. Risvar. We hope to get more discounts. Also, I think we can cooperate for a long time instead of a one-time deal. Risvar was very tempted by Sun Min's proposal, 15% discount. If we can cooperate more in the future, the discount can be even higher. Sun Min finally revealed a satisfied smile. The 15% discount had already met her expectations. Then, it was time to sign the contract. She only needed to sign it. Miss Sun, I'm impressed by your shrewdness. Are all Chinese so good at doing business? Mr. Risvar, it's not that I'm shrewd, but we're not idiots. We all know that only a win-win situation can continue the cooperation, right? You're right. Oh, Miss Sun, are you interested in working for my company? Sorry, I haven't considered that yet. Of course, Sun Min wouldn't take Risvar's words seriously. She heard such compliments almost every day. Miss Sun, there's a party at my house this weekend. Can I have the honor of inviting you? Of course, it's my honor. People in Europe and the United States expand their social network through parties. Therefore, the party culture was very popular. There would be parties for everything. For example, Risvar had 2 or 3 parties a month. The Chinese had a drinking culture. Actually, the two were similar. President, we've already chosen a few red missions, but we haven't made a final decision yet. You can make the final decision, West said. Okay, I'll go over now. Chen Zhao hung up. Recently, the association had been evaluating and choosing the Scarlet mission. Every mission wasn't easy. There were even some missions that no one knew how difficult they were. These missions were usually eliminated directly. Because not knowing what the difficulty was, it meant that there would be greater difficulty and unknown risks. If they had to choose, they had to choose missions with at least some clues. Of course, everyone had heard of these missions. Or maybe it was because it was too difficult, which was why it was famous. Therefore, they had to be very careful when choosing a red mission. Everyone hoped that they could leave safely and come back safely. Chapter 16:13. Chen Zhao arrived at the conference room in the headquarters. Everyone went straight to the main topic. President, we've chosen a total of 7 missions. Sealing the Stone of Slaughter in Japan, killing the Mekong River monster, removing the Pharaoh's curse, finding the lost shaman heritage and handing it to shamanism, killing the giant in Norway, finding and killing the North Sea monster, and killing the poisonous dragon in the African barbarian cave. So far, we've chosen these 7 missions, but we haven't decided which 3 of them, West said. The Stone of Slaughter. Chen Zhao asked. The legendary Stone of Slaughter that seals the 9-tailed fox Tamamonome. Yes. To be honest, the Stone of Slaughter was a rather famous legend in the East. Even as a Chinese, Chen Zhao was familiar with it. Or rather, he'd heard about it many times. That 9-tailed fox escaped. How strong is it? Are you sure we can handle it? To be honest, Chen Zhao had heard about it too many times. Therefore, Chen Zhao wasn't sure if they could really handle the legendary monster that could sink the entire island of Japan. Even with Chen Zhao, they couldn't do it, right? President, actually, Tamamonome didn't escape, but a crack appeared in the seal. The Stone of Slaughter is currently in the White Fox Stream in the Aoki Plain Forest under Mount Fuji, but because of the crack in the seal, large amounts of miasma have leaked out. The surrounding dozens of square kilometers are covered in miasma. Recently, because of the red missions, even more spiritualists have gone in and been harmed by the miasma. I heard that the crack has expanded quite a bit. If this continues, Tamamonome might really escape from the seal. Chen Zhao had heard of the famous Aoki Plain Forest under Mount Fuji. It was the most famous suicide mecca in the world. Are you sure we won't run into Tamamonome when we go there? Also, can someone tell me how strong Tamamonome is? Are you sure this mission is suitable for us? President, I don't think the seal on the Stone of Slaughter is that easy to break, Dongye Tianchi said. He was Japanese and the one with the most say. Oh. Why? In fact, the seal has been loosening since 100 years ago. Over the past 100 years, the cracks in the seal have been expanding. As long as the Sengen Shrine is still there, the seal will not be unlocked. So, the possibility of facing Tamamonome is not high. Moreover, Tamamonome is said to be able to sink the Japanese island. In fact, Tamamonome's real ability is to cause the sacred mountain, Mount Fuji, to erupt. Dongye Tianchi said, Tamamonome was sealed by the Onmyoji Ampi Saimai and 300 Onmyojis. Although Tamamonome caused a great disaster in that battle, he didn't sink the island of Japan. If he really had that ability, he would have used it at that time. Chen Zhao sighed in his heart. What a pity. Then why did you choose this mission? I still think this mission is too dangerous. Because of Ruan Fax Ben, West said. Him. What happened to him? Chen Zhao turned to look at Ruan. President, I realized that dragon scales can repel poison, Ruan said. It's very effective. As long as you wear magic dragon scale armor or dragon scale armor, the miasma won't be able to get close to you. I also made a large number of antidotes. Also, West said, I don't think Ampi Saimai is stronger than the president. No, I think so. Master Saimai is the greatest Onmyoji. He's the founder of Yin Yang Dao. Dongye Tianxi clearly respected his ancestor very much. Even though he also respected Qin Zhao. But he also respected the Onmyoji from 1,000 years ago. Qin Zhao's power was obvious to all. But Qin Zhao clearly didn't contribute much in the field of religion. Okay, your Saimai is the best, okay. Qin Zhao couldn't be bothered to compare with a little Japan from 1,000 years ago. Also, we have Alice. Alice knows a lot of sealing spells, even the yin-yang Dao sealing spells, West said. So, I think this mission won't be too difficult for us. Let's talk about the other tentative missions. What's the Mekong River Monster? The Mekong River Monster has existed for more than 1,000 years. In the early days, the people in that area even treated it as a river god and performed many live sacrifices. Until the 1980s, it was officially recognized as a water monster. Its exact species is unknown. It's a cold-blooded animal. We only know that it has the power to control water. It's speculated to be a dragon. This mission can be pre-selected. My main battlefield is in the water, Qin Zhao said. I'm not afraid of any enemies in the water. Of course, unless it's absolutely necessary, I don't want to fight personally. It's best if you guys complete the 3 Scarlet missions. I'm just the final guarantee. That was what Qin Zhao said, but he knew that if he didn't fight, the chances of this mission being selected were very low. In the entire association, apart from him, no one was good at fighting in the water. But to Qin Zhao, this mission might actually be the easiest. Of course, to be frank, these missions weren't for Qin Zhao. They were for the members of the association. So, Qin Zhao's words were only for reference. At the same time, Qin Zhao would be a backup instead of directly participating in the mission. There's also the Egyptian Pharaoh's curse. This completely requires Ruan Faxben and more Raz. We can't do anything at all. We've already bought a sample of the Egyptian Pharaoh's curse, West said. It's just that no one has been able to break the Pharaoh's curse in the past few centuries, so the chances of us solving it aren't high. Mr. West, please don't compare me to those trash. I'm Ruan Faxben. Ruan Faxben said, dissatisfied. Fine, I hope you can succeed too. Of course, I still have my own opinions. West was obviously happy to see his own people solve the Pharaoh's curse. However, he didn't have high hopes for it. There's also the shaman's legacy. Shamanism originated from Africa, but most people only know this much. We're also limited to this. This mission is closer to the African barbarian cave poisonous dragon. The African barbarian cave poisonous dragon. Is it a dragon? Yes, it's a real dragon. It's the only confirmed dragon in the world right now. But this mission is the same as the Mekong River Monster. Unless the president takes action personally, otherwise. Chapter 1614. Although magic dragon scale armor and dragon scale armor can resist poison, they're useless against poisonous dragons, West said. To be honest, for Qin Zhao, most red missions weren't difficult for him. For example, slaying a dragon. But West didn't plan on asking Qin Zhao to do it directly. If Qin Zhao did it himself, there wouldn't be any discussion. He could just pick a few nearby missions. There was no need for a meeting at all. Norwegian Forest Giant. It's a giant from Norse mythology. Is it a titan? Qin Zhao didn't know much about European and American mythology. The giants in Norse mythology and the titans in Greek mythology are two completely different things. They belong to different mythological systems. But both the Vanir and Olympus gods like to fight giants, Alice said. In Norse mythology, the god of deceit, Loki, led his sons and giants to kill the gods during the twilight of the gods. The Loki from the Women's Federation, That's a movie. West rolled his eyes. The real god of deceit, Loki, is Odin's brother. Is that Norwegian forest giant the one from Norse mythology? I don't think it's a pure-blooded giant, West said. West said, according to the witness, he was 100 meters tall and held a tree trunk in his hand. It's like the mountain giant in Dota, Moore said. Shut up. West glared at Moore. Just because Chen Zhao was joking didn't mean Moore could do the same. How strong is this Norwegian forest giant? He destroyed 2 towns before. The local government tried to keep the news under wraps. Understandable. Chen Zhao nodded. What about the giant North Sea monster? It's also a monster from Norse mythology. It's in the sea near Norway and Greenland. Its exact location is unknown. Not long ago, the giant North Sea monster appeared and attacked a large group of spiritualists. More than 100 people died. This is the video. West played a video that was less than 3 minutes long. In the video, it looked like a monster from mythology. Only part of its body was shown, but it was still enough to show how big it was. To Chen Zhao, it should be a monster like an octopus. A few tentacles reached out of the water, either wrapping around boats or slapping the sea. The tentacles were about 100 meters long, and if the part that was underwater was counted, it would probably be even longer. And judging from the strength of the tentacles, it was absolutely terrifying. That was because one of the tentacles had wrapped around a 100-meter-long ship and forcefully twisted it out of shape. On the surface of the sea, there were also people using firearms to attack the tentacles. One of them used an RPG to attack the tentacle, but the tentacle remained unharmed. Just the tentacles alone displayed astonishing defensive power. In the end, everyone looked at Chen Zhao. Very powerful, Chen Zhao said after a while. Guild leader, what else? You can't beat them, Chen Zhao said honestly. Then, out of these 7 missions, which do you think we should choose? According to your description, the killing stone should be the easiest one, provided that the 9-tailed fox, Tamamonome, doesn't come out of the seal, Chen Zhao said. Secondly, we need to find the lost shaman heritage and remove the pharaoh's curse. As for the rest, we need pure combat power. From what you've said, it's hard to win. Poisonous dragon, giant, water monster, and sea monster. Maybe we can try the giant, but I don't recommend trying the other 3. First, the Mekong River monster and the North Sea monster could be eliminated. The association lacked combat power in the water. Second, the poisonous dragon. That was a real comparison of power. If Gaia, Heliais, and Norma could increase their power by several times and work together, they might be able to fight it. To put it bluntly, the others were just a bunch of nobodies before the poisonous dragon. How about this? We'll seal the killing stone first and then try to find the lost shaman heritage. Ruan Fasabin and Mor Raz will also do their best to break the curse. If we can't break it in actual combat, then we'll prepare to surround the giant, West said. However, the last 2 missions are more dependent on luck, West said. There's too much luck involved. So, if these 2 missions don't work out, the president might have to take action and choose one from the poisonous dragon, sea monster, or sea monster. Alright, Chen Zhao said. We'll do that for now. Strictly speaking, Tamamonome, the 9-tailed fox sealed by the killing stone, should be the strongest. But the prerequisite was that the seal had to be undone. Just then, Chen Zhao's phone rang. Chen Zhao greeted West and walked to the door to pick it up. Risvar, what's up? Laura isn't feeling well these days. Do you have time? Help me take a look at Laura. Sure. Is it urgent? If it's not, I'll go over tonight. Okay, I'll have the kitchen prepare your dinner. Are Phalai, Jerlin, and Larissa coming over? Do I need to prepare them? No, they won't come. I won't be home. I have work to do now. Okay, we'll talk later. The meeting was also coming to an end. Chen Zhao and West both said a few words. They decided on the Scarlet mission for now. Then it was the preparation work. After all, each mission was dangerous. No one dared to be careless. The preparation work this time was an investment without considering the cost. This mission wasn't just a trial. It was also a huge income for the association. Therefore, there was no need to consider the cost. The trip to Japan was tentatively scheduled to depart in mid-October. After confirming the date, the meeting ended. Chen Zhao drove to Beverly Hills. Chen Zhao's car had just entered Risvar's house. Vera, Ronnie, and LoveLore rushed to Chen Zhao. LoveLore missed his canine companions very much. Uncle Chen, did Jerlin come? No. Uncle Chen, why didn't you bring Jerlin? Did you mistreat Jerlin? Why didn't you let Jerlin play with us? Ronnie had already shown her unruly and unreasonable side at such a young age. Chen Zhao sweated profusely. Did your dad mistreat you too? Jerlin kept saying that she hasn't seen you in a long time. Chen, I heard you bad-mouthing people behind their backs from afar. That's not something my friend should do. Chen Zhao could hear Risvar's dissatisfied voice from afar. I was forced to retaliate. You should ask your daughters. It's best to discipline them. Chapter 16-15. Chen Zhao entered the mansion. Rolla leaned on the sofa in the living room. When she saw Chen Zhao, she immediately stood up and hugged him, welcoming him. Rolla, I heard from Risvar that you weren't feeling well, so I came to see you. Rolla glanced at Risvar and slapped her forehead. Oh my god, I just caught a cold. Do you really have to invite Chen? Rolla said in a blaming tone. Do you think Chen is as free as you? No, I think Risvar did the right thing. Plus, you don't look so good. It's not as simple as a cold. Hearing that, Risvar immediately tensed up. Chen, is it? Rolla had a history of cancer, although Chen Zhao had cured it. However, Risvar was still worried that it would relapse. Hearing Chen Zhao's words, Risvar was scaring himself again. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes at Svar. Don't scare yourself or Laura. It's nothing. What I mean is, Laura is probably infected with the flu and has a bit of a fever. Chen Zhao paused and sat beside Rolla. Rolla, let me check your body first. Then I'll prescribe some medicine for you. Seeing Chen Zhao's relaxed expression, Risvar also relaxed. Then, Chen Zhao finished checking Rolla's condition and prescribed some medicine. Risvar looked at the prescription. It was just a normal anti-inflammatory medicine, so he also relaxed. Uncle Chen. Ronnie and Vera ran in again. Uncle, tell Dad to let us play with little Golin. Chen Zhao looked at Risvar and Rolla. You heard that, right? How about this? Bring them to your house for 3 days tonight and send them back on the weekend. There's a party in my manor on the weekend. You, Feilai, Gu, and Larissa can come too. You can only play at my house for a few days. Gu can, but Larissa can't leave Feilai yet, Chen Zhao said. Right now, Larissa's situation was rather special. Her diet was rather complicated. Apart from breast milk, she also had some food that could only be found at home. So, Chen Zhao wanted to stay at home. Gu was wild and didn't need special treatment. Yay! That's great. We can play with the dolphin. Risvar and Rolla were helpless. Ever since little Golin's birthday party, Ronnie and Vera kept thinking about the dolphin family. The two of them could provide for almost all the needs of their children. But this was the only aspect that they couldn't compare to the Qin family. Chen Zhao's family didn't have many things, but they had a lot of animals. Moreover, every animal was full of spirituality. Although La Follette had become smarter in the past 2 years. But compared to Chen Zhao's animals, they lacked intelligence. As they were talking, Dell came in with Faith. Uncle Qin. Seeing Chen Zhao, Faith suddenly said with tears in her eyes, Uncle Qin, is little Jerlin here? These little fellows were all talking about Best Actor and Best Actress levels. Tears came out of nowhere. Faith, Mom and Dad asked us to stay at Uncle Chen's place for a few days, Laura proudly showed off to Faith. Faith threw herself at Dell's chest and started crying. Wah! Dad, Ronnie and Vera are going to stay at Uncle Chen's place. They can eat with Princess and play with the dolphin family. They can ride on Black Ma and White Ma and Basin. They don't have any. Seeing Faith crying, the adults present all had awkward expressions on their faces. If you wanted to go, just say it. Why did you have to beat around the bush? Okay, you can go too. You can go too, right? Dell had a headache. It's not like I'm stopping you from going. Faith's tears turned into a smile. Really? Yes, but don't cause trouble for your Uncle Chen and Auntie Feilai. Yes, little Faith will be good, little Faith said happily. After dinner, the 3 kids prepared to follow Chen Zhao home. However, these 3 little fellows really had a lot of things. Risvar even sent a servant to help deliver the things to Chen Zhao's house. When Chen Zhao brought the 3 kids home, Chen Zhao's eyes lit up. There was an uproar in the house. Including little Larissa. Even though it was already night. They wouldn't go to sleep. They were going to play on the beach at night. Chen Zhao could only accompany them. Night was different from day. There was a certain degree of danger at night. The seawater would also wash some dangerous creatures onto the beach. Chen Zhao first checked with the little world before letting them come down to play. Chen Zhao and Feilai jumped onto a soft bed on the beach. While watching the little fellows frolic, he enjoyed the tranquil, unpleasant night scenery. Little Larissa had already fallen asleep. She was nestled between the two of them. This kind of night was unforgettable. The family pets were also playing on the beach. Only Princess was quiet and didn't move. She lay beside the mattress. Briar and Bramble didn't inherit their mother's personality at all. Or perhaps it was because of the environment they grew up in, they were very active like little Gu. Briar, Bramble, Simba, and Nana had grown a lot compared to last year. Little Gu could already ride them now. Moreover, they were much stronger and smarter than their peers of the same age. In American society, it wasn't rare to have any kind of pet. Felines, bears, or even cold-blooded animals weren't rare either. Of course, this was the privilege of the rich. Nevertheless, there were many cases of pets attacking people every year. But there weren't many pets like Chen Zhao who flew in the sky, crawled on the ground, and swam in the water. There were high beams at the back of the beach to provide enough light for the kids playing on the beach. Under the control of the housekeeper system, the light was always locked on to each child. According to the settings of the housekeeper system, the safety of the children in Mingyue Villa was the highest. Once a dangerous creature approached, it would alert the housekeeper. Of course, Chen Zhao was also monitoring them at all times. He made sure that no accidents would happen. The underlings brought over some cut fruits and juice. When the kids were tired, they would drink some juice and rest before continuing to play. The kids were too excited. They really treated this night as a party before the end of the world. Chen Zhao let them be. If they were really tired or if Qin Zhao thought it was too late, he would let them sleep. If they didn't sleep, he would give them the banshee's charm. While he was free, Qin Zhao also arranged their meals for the next 2 days. It wasn't that they were malnourished. Qin Zhao just had some micronutrients as a professional habit. Chapter 16:16. The next day, after a good night's sleep, the little devils started playing again early in the morning. Qin Zhao and Fei Lai didn't care at all. They could do whatever they wanted. The morning air was still a bit cold, but Jerlin, Faith, Ronnie, and Vera were already playing on the beach. Colin came again and saw the many little devils on the beach. He didn't understand where so many kids had come from. Qin Zhao came down from above. "You're so proactive." Qin Zhao was surprised. Colin shrugged. "I don't want to make things difficult for myself." He didn't know what Qin Zhao had done to his body. However, he could feel that every time he used magic, he would feel blocked. Clearly, Qin Zhao had done something to him. "These kids are. Why do you care about them? Let's continue today. Practice boxing with me first," Qin Zhao said. With that, Qin Zhao tossed the boxing outfit to Colin. "Try to dodge my attacks," Qin Zhao said. Following Qin Zhao's instructions, Colin tried to dodge. But no matter how he dodged, Qin Zhao could still hit him. He didn't have an advantage in speed or experience. After trying a few times, Colin realized that his efforts were all in vain. Qin Zhao's punches were too fast. In fact, Qin Zhao had already slowed down his punches by 10 times. Otherwise, Colin wouldn't be able to block Qin Zhao's 100 punches per second. "Your kids went to play in the water. There are sharks there. Aren't you afraid that something will happen to them? Why do you think the sharks can appear here?" "Why?" "Because I raised them, of course." Qin Zhao rolled his eyes. "Did you forget what happened that day? Why do you think you guys were attacked by sharks so many times and not hurt at all?" Colin recalled the experience that day. A few sharks kept attacking him and his friends. But in the end, they returned to the shore safely. Now that he thought about it, it was indeed very strange. Sharks can be raised in captivity? Colin asked, confused. "I'm a spiritualist." "You're a druid?" Colin asked in surprise. "I only know animal language," Qin Zhao said calmly. At the same time, he punched and forced Colin back. "Don't get distracted." "Bang, bang, beast language. Can I learn it?" "Sure, do you really want to learn?" "Of course I do," Colin replied seriously. "You need to start learning the most basic dog language." "How?" "Practice barking first." Colin's face darkened. How could he not know that Qin Zhao was making fun of him? After the sparring session, Colin walked away feeling sore all over. But it wasn't easy for Qin Zhao. Little Jerlin, Little Fisher, Ronnie, Vera, and Little Larissa. After lunch, Fei Lai asked Qin Zhao to take the children out to play, including Little Larissa. Qin Zhao had no choice but to take the 5 kids out alone. To ensure that the 4 children wouldn't run off, Qin Zhao had to put leashes on each of them. It was also commonly known as a dog chain. In the past, Qin Zhao couldn't understand putting a leash on a child. Wasn't it too much to lead him like a dog? But now, he understood. When taking more than one child out, a leash was almost a necessity. Qin Zhao had 4 leashes on him and little Larissa in his arms. But the 4 leashes couldn't completely keep them in check. With their active personalities, the leashes would tie knots from time to time. Moreover, the 4 of them were completely dead set on the leashes. The leashes were always in a tight state. Dad, we're going there, little Jerlin shouted, pointing at a supermarket. Okay, a supermarket. Chen Zhao brought the little demons into the supermarket. Even little Larissa, who was in Chen Zhao's arms, showed her feminine nature. Dad, I want that. Uncle, I want that, and that too. Chen Zhao looked at the toy cars that the children were pointing at. The toy cars they wanted weren't ones that could be held in their hands. They could really be driven in them. They were actually miniaturized jeeps. They were 1.2 meters long. It seemed like a good choice to drive on the beach. Sure. Chen Zhao found a shop assistant and asked for 4 toy cars. Of course, even Chen Zhao couldn't take the toy cars and the packaging. So, he had the shop assistant send the 4 toy cars to his house. Then there were a lot of snacks. Chen Zhao wasn't afraid that they would get diarrhea from eating snacks. Anyway, Chen Zhao always had a way. Sun Min came to the supermarket today. She was actually here to inspect the supermarkets in America. She wanted to see the differences between the supermarkets in America and in China. She was a very career-driven woman. Even during the holidays, Sun Min would still care about something related to her work. After entering the supermarket, Sun Min felt that it was big, very big. There were about the same number of shop assistants and customers. Most of the time, the supermarkets in America were empty. Of course, there were shopping streets in America too. For example, Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and Cyber Monday. Every year on these 3 days, there would be stampedes in shopping malls and supermarkets. Most of the time, the supermarkets in America were empty. Just then, Sun Min saw a figure in front of her. She recognized Chen Zhao and was even more surprised by his situation. Is he a babysitter now? Sun Min couldn't be blamed for thinking so. Chen Zhao really looked like a babysitter right now. He was holding 4 children and holding another one in his arms. On the other hand, Chen Zhao's face was filled with despair. Sun Min had heard that there were babysitters in America, regardless of gender. Their main job was to take care of the children of rich families. No wonder Chen Zhao didn't want to eat with her last time. He was afraid of losing face. Sun Min hadn't planned to show off or humiliate him. However, she couldn't help but feel proud and satisfied. Now, she felt that her choice back then was correct. Sun Min thought for a moment and walked up. Chen Zhao. Sun Min went up to greet him. Chen Zhao was stunned. He didn't expect to see Sun Min here again. Sun Min, what a coincidence. We meet again. The world is so small. Or are we fated? Sun Min looked at Chen Zhao with a meaningful smile. Hee hee. In this world, not every coincidence can be called fate. The 4 children were still pulling on the leashes like crazy. Jerlin even climbed onto the shelves. Looks like it's hard for you too, Sun Min said. Sun Min said, are all children so active? I don't dare to have children anymore. First, you need to find a man. Then you can choose whether to have children or not. Chapter 16-17. Ha. I won't disturb you anymore, Sun Min said. I still have something to do. Bye. Okay. Bye. Seriously, when you're free, come out for dinner. It's okay. I'm busy. Sun Min glanced at the kids and nodded. I understand. Bye. Bye. Sun Min could feel it. Chen Zhao's attitude. He planned to cut all ties with her. But that was good. Chen Zhao really didn't have time to bond with Sun Min. The 4 kids bought many toys and snacks in the supermarket. They wanted to go to the amusement park. Okay, let's go then. But the amusement park was much more crowded than the supermarket. Chen Zhao had no choice but to ask Risvar to send a few more people over. Otherwise, he really couldn't take care of so many kids by himself. After playing for a whole day, they returned to Mingyue Villa in the evening. At night, Fei Lai planned to take the kids to the sea. Hearing Fei Lai's words, the kids were all excited. After dinner, the children jumped on the hydra. When the sun went down, the whole family went out to sea. After all, there were a lot of kids, so Chen Zhao and Fei Lai made a rule for them. They could only go into the water to play with their permission. Without their permission, they definitely couldn't go into the water. If the kids didn't listen, they had to go back immediately. Although Chen Zhao had brought them out to play, safety was the most important thing. Since Chen Zhao had brought them out to play, then he had to live up to Risvar and Dell's trust. 30 nautical miles after the hydra sailed, Amon started to follow it. "Kids, come out," Fei Lai called. The kids ran to the deck in a hubbub. Just then, Amon leaped into the air. Amon's huge body was too shocking and impactful. His current body is even bigger than the hydra. Wow, wow, wow. So big. What's that? Amazing, amazing. Such a big fish. That's Amon, our Amon, little Jerlin said proudly. Little Faith, Ronnie, and Vera all looked at little Jerlin with watery eyes filled with envy. "Kids, do you want to play on Amon's back?" "Can I? Is it really possible?" The children were chattering excitedly. Chen Zhao put the children onto Amon's back one by one. The 4 children jumped around on Amon's back. Fei Lai and little Larissa didn't go up. Little Larissa was too young to handle such a storm. After all, it was nighttime, and the temperature was a little low. Under Chen Zhao's order, Amon started moving. He even made some movements on the surface of the sea. The 4 kids were shouting excitedly. After playing on Amon's back for half an hour, they finally returned to the shore. After playing on the sea for a few hours, the children were tired and fell asleep. Then it was time for Chen Zhao and Fei Lai. The Hydra has set a return route. Tomorrow morning, the Hydra will be back in port. In the morning, Lola and Risvar even made a video call. They wanted to talk to the children. "Mr. Chen," Felwood said. "The first draft of the Mirror Lake Villa is done. It's been sent to your email. Please take a look and see if there's anything you need to change." "Okay, I'll take a look first." Chen Zhao opened his email and looked at the first draft. The process of building a private villa and customizing a yacht were similar. They both required the client to look at the design and then start construction after they were satisfied. Of course, the villa's design was much simpler than the yacht. Chen Zhao realized that this version of the villa's design was completely different from the previous Mirror Lake villas. The main body was cylindrical and much taller than the previous villas. Moreover, the main body of the villa this time was almost all built in the lake. One had to admit that the design was indeed eye-catching. However, the villa was completely built in the water, which increased the construction difficulty. The water's permeability and corrosiveness couldn't be ignored. "Mr. Felwood, I don't object to building the villa in the water. I don't doubt your company's construction skills either, but how do you solve the extension problems?" "Mr. Chen, the biggest problem with building it completely in the water is humidity. However, installing a dehumidifier on each floor will solve this problem. At the same time, I plan to use titanium alloy as the main structure and custom-made large building glass to avoid the corrosion of the lake water," Felwood said. "Each floor will be separated by fiberboard and then covered with soundproof materials." Felwood explained the various details of the design in detail. "Will the dehumidifier cause noise?" Mr. Chen, the current dehumidifier can achieve absolute zero noise. It's not the traditional square shape. Instead, it's curved and can perfectly fit into the wall. What about the resistance to wind and waves? Chen Zhao was most concerned about safety. He didn't want the villa to be flattened by a storm like the previous one. Of course, the previous villa wasn't flattened because of the design or construction quality. It was because of the third night. Nevertheless, Chen Zhao still hoped that the next time he encountered similar problems, the villa wouldn't be destroyed directly. Mr. Chen, look at the curved inner groove on the outer wall of the main body. It's a rather popular ventilation groove. Our company's designer specially designed it. By simulating the impact of wind and waves, it can reduce the destructive power of the wind and waves by several times. Also, we'll put a 20-ton piece of complete concrete in the lowest level of the villa's basement. It'll be fixed, like a ship's anchor. I can guarantee that even if there's another hurricane like last time, the new villa won't be damaged at all. Chen Zhao thought for a moment. Make the room with the concrete in the basement into a sphere. It'll be the same size as the basement of Mingyue Villa. How do we put the sphere in? You don't have to be responsible for that. I have my own plans. Okay, I understand. When he'd built Mingyue Villa, the construction had been a bit rushed. But this time, he had more time to build the Mirror Lake Villa. Chen Zhao had thought about moving to Mirror Lake in the winter. However, he probably wouldn't be able to move in this winter. Since that was the case, he might as well let Fellwood build slowly and focus on quality. Chapter 16-18. Chen, when are you free? Come to school. Sure, I'm free today. I'll go over in the afternoon. Chen Zhao could vaguely tell from Wright's tone that she had something to talk to him about. In the afternoon, Chen Zhao left the kids with Fei Lai and went to UCLA. Chen Zhao hadn't been to school in a long time. Ever since little Larissa was born, he'd spent most of his time on her. When he arrived at the school, he saw someone familiar in the distance. Why are you here? Are you also a student here? Mr. Chen, why are you here? You're not here for me, are you? Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. I'm a professor at UCLA. Why do you think I'm here? What? Colin was shocked. He didn't expect Chen Zhao to be a professor at UCLA. Alright, let's not talk anymore. I still have something to do. It couldn't be said that Chen Zhao and Colin had a deep friendship. However, ever since Colin got used to being abused by Chen Zhao, he was no longer afraid. He found that he seemed to enjoy the process a little. Of course, it was mainly because Chen Zhao could teach him something. Although the process might be painful. However, after every sparring session, Chen Zhao would heal him too. Chen Zhao found Wright's office. Seeing Chen Zhao, Wright pushed up her glasses and looked at him unhappily. Darling, you don't seem to want to see me. Tell me, how long has it been since you last came to school? I've been busy lately. Chen Zhao didn't even bother to find an excuse. He sat before Wright's desk and started eating an apple. Do you know how much pressure I've been under to keep your professorship? Most university professors in the United States were permanent. Of course, the premise was that he didn't resign. People like Chen Zhao might not even come to school once a month. They only had 2 or 3 classes every half year. Wright had indeed put in a lot of effort to keep Chen Zhao's title. Alright, enough with the nonsense. Let's get straight to the point. This time, I called you here to ask for your help. Tell me, what is it? As long as I can do it, I will definitely do it. I want money, Wright said straightforwardly. How much? Chen Zhao hesitated. It was not that he could not afford it, nor was he unwilling to give it to Wright. But giving it to Wright was one thing, giving it to the school was another. Chen Zhao's feelings for the school couldn't compare to his personal relationship with Wright. If Wright was personally short of money, or needed it urgently, Chen Zhao didn't even ask how much it was. He just wrote a check. But Wright wasn't asking for money personally. The school probably needed money for her to ask for his help. The school doesn't have a lot of funds this year, especially for the sports club. Wright said, half of the students in the school are members of the sports club, and there are more than 2,000 students who are interested in developing in sports, but the funds allocated to the sports club is only $1 million. Chen Zhao had done some sports-related things before. For example, Tigers training and competition. It was all Chen Zhao's own money. He knew very well how much it cost to train a sports student. Of course, it was impossible for the school to train every student like a professional athlete. If every student who wanted to develop in the sports circle was trained like a professional athlete, even if UCLA had a mountain of gold, it wouldn't be enough. Even so, the school had a huge number of sports students. The cost of equipment, competitions, and training was still not a small amount. For example, a basketball match at another school would cost around $1,000. If it was a city match, it would cost at least $5,000. If it was a city match, it would cost at least $5,000. There were also other sports students. How big is the gap? Chen Zhao asked. The next funding won't come until March next year. There's still half a year until then, so if you want the sports students to have enough funds, you'll need at least $1.5 million. Wright's eyes were pleading. Chen Zhao pursed his lips. What can I get out of it? What do you want? Wright wasn't an unreasonable person. When it came to sponsorships, it would be successful. If it didn't, it wouldn't affect Chen Zhao's personal feelings. If charity or sponsorships couldn't generate profits, they wouldn't last long. This was very common in Europe and America. Money didn't grow on trees. Europe and America's attitude toward charity was exactly like the Chinese saying, teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. This was also why charity funds in Europe and America were all profit-making. So, if Chen Zhao made his request, Wright wouldn't reject it as long as it was reasonable. If Chen Zhao only wanted to donate, he could donate for 1 or 2 years. But he couldn't spend $1 or $2 million every year to something that wouldn't bring him any profit. I can sponsor the UCLA Sports Club $2 million every year. However, I request that all the competitions held by UCLA every year have the Dashin Beer logo. Also, the uniforms of the UCLA Sports Club must have the Dashin Beer logo on them whenever they participate in competitions. $2 million isn't enough. At least $5 million. Wright raised the price. Do you know how many competitions our students participate in every year and how many times they participate in them? If it's more than 10,000 times, according to the price of $2 million, it's like only $200 per competition. Chen Zhao shook his head. $5 million is too high. Also, I don't think the sports club needs that much money. $4 million. I can't go any lower. How about $3 million, Chen Zhao said. This wasn't a real business negotiation. Their conversation was too personal. While they fought for their own interests, they couldn't attack each other like they would at a real negotiation. If they really wanted to negotiate, Chen Zhao wouldn't be the one doing it. Instead, the legal team would be the one doing it. $3.5 million, Wright said. I want to sign a 3-year sponsorship contract and pay it all in one go. I want to build another stadium. Fine. Chen Zhao shrugged. I'll get the lawyer to sign the contract with you tomorrow. Oh, do you have any coupons? Wright asked gloomily. Dashin beer has been too hard to buy recently. It's sold out every time it's on the shelves. She might look like an old woman in her 90s, but she was a real alcoholic. No, Dashin beer doesn't have any promotions right now. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. Also, do you think you're young? You're already so old, but you still drink every day. I'll check your body later. Chapter 16-19. If consumed in moderation, Dashin beer was good for the body. But it wasn't necessarily a good thing to drink too much every day. Of course, not everyone could drink too much. Dashin beer always had a special characteristic. It was that the alcohol content wouldn't be high when drinking it. But after a few more cans, the after effects would come. Most of the time, they would be drunk and unable to wake up. I'm also a medical student, Wright said. I don't need you to tell me that drinking is bad for the body. But under Chen Zhao's tough attitude, he wouldn't sponsor him. If Wright didn't examine him, he wouldn't sponsor him. Wright was infuriated by Chen Zhao's threats. Colin just walked out of the classroom. He had just finished a public lecture. Two people walked toward him. One was a voluptuous, sexy woman. The other one was a tall and sturdy man. Colin didn't think much at first. However, the two of them continued to walk towards him. Mr. Colin, can we talk? The sexy woman asked with a sweet smile. It was easy to like a woman like her. Colin was stunned. He looked at the two in confusion. Do we know each other? Just then, the sexy woman took out her phone and played a video. Mr. Colin, is that you? Colin took the phone and looked at the video. The incident in the video had happened the night before yesterday. Colin was walking on the street when a girl ran to pick something up on the road. Coincidentally, a truck rushed over. At the same time, Colin activated his speed and saved the girl from the shadow of death. The video was probably taken by the surveillance camera at the intersection. But Colin didn't know who these people were. How did they get the camera? I'm Ceylon. He's my partner, Tank, the sexy woman said. The sexy woman said, we work for the government. We hope you can join our team. Sorry, I'm not interested, Kellen refused without hesitation. He was more interested in his father's organization, the supernatural organization. Kid. Tank's hand was already on Colin's shoulder. Do you know what kind of punishment an unregistered spiritualist will get for using magic? Colin dodged. He avoided Tank's hand. He didn't believe her. Moore had mentioned that there were many spiritualists in Los Angeles. Not everyone is a member of the supernatural community. There was nothing that prevented spiritualists from using magic as they pleased. As long as he did not use magic to break the law, no one would question him. There were also many spiritualists who relied on their magic to make a living. These are all permitted. Kid, I'm afraid you won't be able to refuse our invitation. There was a malicious smile on Tank's face. I still refuse. Colin was very annoyed by the other party's aggressive tone. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving. Goodbye. Colin was about to leave when his body suddenly froze. He found himself unable to move. Ceylon pointed her finger at Kellen, a mocking expression on her face. Let's go, Ceylon said softly. Colin found his feet moving unconsciously. You. What did you do to me? Puppet magic. You are now my marionette, Ceylon said with a smile. Hurry up and undo the magic on me, or I'll scream. Colin was furious. At the same time, he also felt the magic was magical. Ceylon's fingertips moved lightly. Then I'll sew your mouth shut. Suddenly, Colin felt as if there were threads running through his mouth. Ugh, Colon was shocked, but he couldn't make a sound. Just like that, Celilon dragged Colon out of the school. Then, he was brought into an alley. Colon saw that there were many people in the alley. The leader of the group should be a blonde woman who was not much older than him. Is he our new member? Blitz pushed up his glasses and looked at Colon. Vestana walked up with a smile. You're Colon, right? I'm Vestana. Actually, we're schoolmates. I just graduated from UCLA this year, Vestana said. Ugh, Celilon, undo the magic on him, Vestana said. Colon felt the magic on him disappear. He turned to look at the alley's exit. A few people had already stopped him. Clearly, they were preventing Colon from running away. Colon, we're very satisfied with your talent. Join us, Vestana said. Do you think you can force me to join you like this? Colon hated being forced like this. If they were communicating normally, he wouldn't be so resistant. But Tank's tyranny and Celilon's control over him went against his will. He was filled with endless rage. I won't submit to you, Colon roared. Vestana's expression showed her displeasure. Colon, if you have any requests, we can talk. Don't push me away like this, okay? My request is simple. Get out of my sight and don't appear in front of me again. Colon was still too young. He didn't use his brain before speaking. Vestana's displeasure became even more obvious. Tank growled. Do you want to die, kid? Tank's body grew a bit larger. His loose clothes instantly tightened. Colon looked at Tank. Holy shit. Is this guy the Hulk? But his attitude was clear. Colon didn't think they could do anything to him. They couldn't possibly kill him, could they? If that's the case, there's nothing I can do, Vestana sighed. At this time, Vestana took out a piece of parchment. She turned to Celilon. Celilon, it's your turn. Understood, Miss Vestana. Celilon smiled. Mr. Colon, we could have talked nicely, but since you refuse, we'll have to resort to some unconventional methods. Colon found himself losing control of his body again. His hand subconsciously moved upwards. Slowly, it moved towards the parchment. Colon cursed inwardly. He didn't know what this was for. But he could still sense that the situation wasn't good. This parchment seemed to be some sort of magical contract. If he pressed it, he wouldn't be able to change his mind. Colon wanted to resist, but his body was tightly controlled. Don't struggle. Your mana is too weak. You can't resist at all, Celilon said with a hint of pride. Ah, Vestana, what a coincidence to see you here. Please remember this book's domain name. 9 Heavens Godly Emperor Mobile Version. Chapter 1620. Chen Zhao stood at the entrance of the alley with a smile on his face. The moment she saw Chen Zhao, Vestana's expression changed. Damn, why is he here? Save me. Save me. Colon yelled. But the next moment, his mouth was sewn shut. Chen Zhao had already seen the entire situation. He walked into the alley. Vestana, can you explain to me what's going on here? Mr. Chen, this is a dangerous spiritualist. He used his magic to commit some serious crimes, Vestana said as calmly as she could. Oh. I see. Chen Zhao clearly didn't believe her. Just then, the people in the alley all looked at Chen Zhao, their eyes filled with caution. Chen Zhao walked up to Colon and looked at the sheepskin contract. He had signed a sheepskin contract before, so he knew what it was for. What's written on it? Is this his confession? Chen Zhao reached out and grabbed the sheepskin contract. Give it back to me, Ceylon shouted, reaching out to snatch back the sheepskin contract. Slap. Chen Zhao slapped Ceylon away with the back of his hand. Damn it. Tank roared. His clothes exploded and his body doubled in size. Stop. Westana yelled. They couldn't have a conflict with Chen Zhao. They definitely couldn't have a conflict with him. This wasn't in line with their plan. If they had a conflict now, their plan might be put on hold. After Chen Zhao slapped her, the spell Ceylon had cast on Kalon was dispelled. Mr. Chen, I didn't commit a crime, nor did I use magic. If he used magic to commit a crime, it's none of your business, Chen Zhao said, smiling. We're still investigating. We can't confirm it yet, Westana said calmly. Oh, then I'll bring him back for investigation too. Is that okay? No problem. Go ahead. Westana tried her best to control herself. However, the others were all arrogant. They didn't care who was in the right or who was rude. They only knew that Chen Zhao had come here alone. Then he'd snatched their people away. This wasn't something they could tolerate. They did not have Vistana's sense of the bigger picture and patience. Especially Tank, he was impulsive and easily angered. And the angrier he was, the more powerful he was. Moreover, once he exceeded the critical point, he would lose most of his rationality. Tank roared, "You want to leave? Leave him here." Chen Zhao pulled Kalon behind him and looked back at Tank. Bang! No one saw how Chen Zhao did it. All they saw was that Tank's body seemed to have lost control of itself. Like a cannonball, he shot out and crashed heavily at the end of the alley. The others also crowded around him. Stop! All of you, stop! All of you, stop! Vestana shouted angrily, "Whoever dares to disobey will be punished by military law." Only then did the psionic ability team members restrain their urge to attack. Chen Zhao whistled. I can't believe that the girl who was scared half to death back then has become a completely different person in less than half a year. Mr. Chen, I think there's some misunderstanding between us. Please forgive me. Please take him away. Actually, I know what Mansari wants to do, but I don't care, Chen Zhao said casually. But this is Los Angeles, my territory. If there's a next time, you might suddenly die. That's right, Chen Zhao said casually. Although Osalisa had already left the anti-terrorism department, she still had informants in the department. They could not receive all the information in real time like when Osalisa was the secretary of the department. They could not receive all the information in real time like when Osalisa was still the secretary. But they could still obtain a lot of information. Then they could analyze the information. Under Mansari's plan, the anti-terrorism department had secretly formed a supernatural team. As for the purpose of forming this supernatural team, Chen Xiaobei did not know. It wasn't hard to guess. It was to get rid of the supernatural organization's control. In the end, the supernatural organization would replace them. Of course, this was an overt plot. Mansari also knew that they could not hide this news. So, they did not want to hide it from the supernatural organization for too long. They did not need to hide this information. Instead, they wanted to avoid conflict with the supernatural organization in the process. As long as there was no conflict, even if the supernatural organization knew that there was another team, they had no reason to attack. The psionic team was not strong enough to fight against the supernatural organization. Vestana even suspected that Chen Zhao had appeared here on purpose. Chen Zhao's goal was to clash with them. Then, he could legitimately disband the psionic team. At the very least, he could destroy the psionic team's confidence. Not just the spiritualists were shocked by Qin Zhao's words. Even Vestana's veins bulged. But in the end, she still controlled her anger. Impulsiveness was the devil. Vestana, I'm looking for a secretary. Are you interested? Qin Zhao was not in a hurry to leave. Grinning, he looked at Vestana. Vestana took a deep breath. I'm very happy with my current job. I don't plan on changing for now. If that's the case, then if I kill them all, will you lose your job? Vestana's eyelids twitched. Qin Zhao was provoking her on purpose. Mr. Qin, please leave. We're not that close. Fine. Qin Zhao shrugged. Then he glanced at Lilan. Little girl, do you know what happened to the puppet master I encountered last time who used magic recklessly? Lilan covered her face. The anger in her eyes was about to burst out. Lilan, step back, Vestana yelled. Lilan stepped back unwillingly. Seeing that he didn't provoke her, Qin Zhao left with call on. Mr. Qin, who are those people? None of your business, Qin Zhao said calmly. You know them. They're my enemies. Do you know them? Kalon admired Qin Zhao a little. After all, Qin Zhao had saved him from so many people alone. At least, he couldn't be so calm. Also, Qin Zhao's provocative tone didn't sound like he was going to save someone. It seemed more like he was going to pick a fight. Mr. Qin, aren't you afraid that they'll suddenly attack? There are so many of them. Numbers don't mean anything. But there are so many of them. Kalon didn't think that Qin Zhao could beat so many people alone. Tell me the exact situation. Chapter 1621. Brits didn't say anything. No matter how unwilling or angry the team members were. Brits helped Vestana calm them down and control their emotions. Until everyone had left. Brits looked at Vestana with a serious expression. Vestana, I hope you can explain why this is happening. Brits was also mad. Finally, he exploded. He needed an explanation. The opponent was just one person. But they had to endure and retreat despite having so many people on their side. They had to throw away their dignity. They still had to retreat in the face of the opponent's provocation. He couldn't understand why. Vestana sighed. Even if all of us attacked, we wouldn't be able to beat him. Miss Vestana, I'm afraid you have some misunderstanding about the strength of a spiritualist, Brits said with dissatisfaction. Brits considered himself to be at the top of the spiritualists. But he didn't dare say he had a chance against more than 5 spiritualists. Moreover, there were 10 of them at the scene. Brits refused to believe that their side would lose. The conflict just now was a huge blow to the whole team. Do you remember the destructive power test at the beginning? Vestana asked. Brits nodded. Of course he remembered. During the destructive power test, Tank got the highest score for his terrifying destructive power. But Vestana didn't announce the exact score. She only announced the ranking. Then do you know under what circumstances I met that person for the first time? Brits couldn't help but turn to look at Vestana. After such a long period of contact, Brits now had a better understanding of Vestana. Smart, capable, and had a good grasp of the big picture. That was why Brits was willing to be Vestana's assistant. He helped Vestana manage the team. Even though Vestana was just an ordinary person. But Brits believed that Vestana was the best choice as the main person in charge. No one in the team could manage better than her. Do you know how much Tank got in that test? How much? 2, Vestana said. Brits frowned. Based on what you said, that person must have gotten 10, right? No, it was 100. Vestana said with a serious face, all of you will get 1 point. That man will get 100 points. How is this possible? How can Tank be so much weaker than that person? That's the truth. Vestana didn't give a specific explanation. She was afraid that she would reveal that person's true strength. It would frighten Brits and cause the team to completely lose their confidence and courage. Even if Vestana said so. But Brits did not believe it. He felt that Vestana was exaggerating. The Supernatural Society and the Department of Counterterrorism Security were at odds with each other on the surface. It had long been a tacit understanding. But for now, the Supernatural Organization was still an indispensable part of the Anti-Terrorism Security Department. Without the Supernatural Organization. Once a paranormal or supernatural incident occurred that the Counterterrorism Department could not handle, the situation would go out of control. So no matter how much the two sides quarreled in private. On the surface, the Anti-Terrorism Security Department was still the superior department of the Supernatural Organization. The Supernatural Society accepted such a relationship. Hello, 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 hello. In fact, the focus of the Supernatural Society. He had never considered it as an internal conflict with the Anti-Terrorism Security Department. This matter had actually been discussed internally. Chen Zhao, West, Osalisa, and Gaia had had a small discussion. They talked about the hostility of the Anti-Terrorism Security Department. Osalisa's words went straight to the heart of the matter. No matter who won or lost this internal conflict. What would the outcome be? So what if the Supernatural Organization won or lost? If they won, could they just destroy the Anti-Terrorism Security Department? Could they just kill Minister Mansari? That was impossible. At most, they would make Mansari step down and get a new minister. What would the Supernatural Organization get? Would the new minister definitely cooperate with the Supernatural Organization? Impossible. The Supernatural Organization could never replace the Anti-Terrorism Security Department. On the other hand, even if the Supernatural Organization lost, they would not be able to win. What could Mansari do? Could they send American soldiers to kill them all? Other than restricting the Supernatural Organization's funding, they could do nothing. Even if one day Mansari could create a team that could replace the Supernatural Organization. So what? The Supernatural Organization could only survive on their own now. As long as they got rid of the Anti-Terrorism Security Department's funding restriction. Then the Anti-Terrorism Security Department's last trump card against the Supernatural Organization would be completely useless. By then, it would be useless no matter how happy the Anti-Terrorism Security Department was. So, at the end of the small meeting, Chen Zhao decided to ignore the Anti-Terrorism Security Department's little tricks. Because this was a meaningless battle. Also, the Supernatural Organization wasn't completely without a way out. The Supernatural Organization had another connection in the government. That was Leong, the former minister of the Anti-Terrorism Security Department who had hated the Supernatural Organization to the bone. But just like that, success was all because of Xiao He, failure was also because of Xiao He. Back then, Leong had been bullied so badly by the Supernatural Organization. But at the last moment, he made a comeback. In the pagoda-bearing Snow Mountain incident, Leong used this achievement. Not only did he get out of the Anti-Terrorism Security Department unscathed, but he was also promoted. After that, Leong and the Supernatural Organization seemed to have completely separated on the surface. It seemed like they had nothing to do with each other anymore. But Leong knew very well that the Supernatural Organization could be a knife in his hand. Just like the pagoda-bearing Snow Mountain incident. After letting go of his prejudice, Leong contacted the Supernatural Organization of his own accord and expressed his attitude. To Leong, to the supernatural organization. The two of them had a relationship that would benefit both parties if they worked together, and harm both parties if they were separated. Leong knew very well too. They had no reason to be enemies now. The grudges of the past were not worth mentioning at this moment. Plus, Leong knew better. Even if he was promoted now. But if he used his power to make things difficult for the supernatural organization, he would really piss them off. They might really throw a curse at his house. Although the supernatural organization didn't really care about the anti-terrorism security department, some conflicts were still unavoidable. For example, this time, Chen Zhao couldn't just ignore what was happening. Right before his eyes. Before him. Plus, the other party had indeed gone overboard this time. If this was in a movie, it would definitely be something that the villain would do. If this happened in a movie, it would definitely be something that the villain would do. 9 Heavens Divine Emperor Mobile Version. Chapter 1622. If they cause trouble for you again, call me, Chen Zhao reminded Colin. But that was all he could do. He wasn't Colin's bodyguard. He couldn't keep an eye on Colin all day. Of course, he also believed that the anti-terrorism department wouldn't touch Colin again. After all, they were probably trying to avoid conflict with the supernatural organization. When Chen Zhao returned, the car was on the road above the beach. He saw Fei Lai doing yoga on the beach. The kid sat beside Fei Lai and copied her yoga moves. Even little Larissa was learning from him. Chen Zhao parked the car in the garage and went to the beach. Darling. Chen Zhao also started mimicking Fei Lai's yoga moves. To be honest, Chen Zhao's movements couldn't be as accurate as Fei Lai's. For example, the camel pose or the front folding pose. Unless Chen Zhao broke his bones, he wouldn't be able to do it at all. For one, Chen Zhao's bone structure was already set. Plus, Chen Zhao's muscles created a lot of resistance. Of course, Chen Zhao wasn't the soft type in the first place. Dad, you're so stupid. You have to bend your waist lower, Jerlin said with disdain. Look like Jerlin. Chen Zhao stood up with a dark expression. I'll go see if dinner's ready. Chen Zhao wasn't worried that they would do some super difficult movements. Fei Lai guided them from the side. Some movements were dangerous for kids. They might even affect their bone development. But as long as they didn't do those movements, it would be very beneficial for their development. After a set of yoga movements, Fei Lai took the kids swimming in the sea. First, little Larissa was exhausted after swimming for less than 100 meters. A little dolphin went up and put little Larissa on its back. Faith was next, followed by Ronnie and Vera. Last was little Jerlin. Jerlin's body was too good. Among kids her age, she was invincible. Of course, no matter how good she wasn't as good as Fei Lai. When everyone went ashore, little Larissa had already fallen asleep on the dolphin's back. Chen Zhao tossed a towel to Fei Lai. At the same time, he gave her a glass of juice. Fei Lai, the design for the Mirror Lake Villa is ready. Take a look. As long as you think it's good enough. I don't know architecture, Fei Lai said indifferently. Right, Risvar and Laura are having a party at their place tomorrow. Are you going? No, thanks. Fei Lai had been working out non-stop recently. She didn't even touch alcohol. If he went to a party, he would inevitably drink some alcohol. Of course, under normal circumstances, drinking some beer wouldn't have any effect. It was just that Feilai had high expectations for herself. After dinner, the children began to play again. They went from the bright moon villa to the beach, and then to the water. Feilai was jogging on the beach. Chen Zhao sat on the beach. He was cultivating. Little Larissa climbed onto Chen Zhao's legs and reached out to scratch his face. "Baby, don't disturb me. Go play with your sisters." Chen Zhao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He really shouldn't cultivate here. Because of the spiritual qi, cultivating in the villa would definitely be more effective than on the beach. However, Chen Zhao still had to look after the children, so he could only cultivate on the beach. Ah! Little Larissa stood on Chen Zhao's legs. But her short hands could only touch Chen Zhao's chest. Feilai stopped beside Chen Zhao and wiped the sweat from her forehead. "Chen, I've spent more time with little Larissa than you. Why is she closer to you?" Feilai's tone was filled with intense jealousy. "It's probably because of the aura," Chen Zhao said, chuckling. "Aura? Everyone's aura is different. It's like radio waves from a radio station. Little Larissa can receive my radio waves. What about me? What's my aura like?" Feilai also wanted little Larissa to feel her aura. Chen Zhao smiled bitterly at Feilai. Even ordinary people had auras. Chen Zhao could feel Feilai's aura, but little Larissa couldn't. Little Larissa had awakened her magic, but she didn't know how to control her senses and magic. So, everything she did was based on instinct. Chen Zhao could control his own aura, so he could release his aura to attract little Larissa. Everyone's aura was like a magnet. Feilai and little Larissa were magnets that didn't know how to control their own poles. Chen Zhao, on the other hand, could control his magnetic poles, so his aura could attract Feilai and Larissa. Feilai was an adult, so she wouldn't be affected too much. But little Larissa only acted based on instinct. She would naturally get closer to Chen Zhao. For example, normal people had a magnetic field, which was actually everyone's aura. Why did some people suddenly like each other? It was the closeness of their auras. Chen Zhao suddenly froze. He suddenly thought of something important. The magnetic fields between people could attract each other. Then what about the magnetic fields between people and the world? Chen Zhao suddenly calmed down. His body was completely empty. The earth created a magnetic field through its rotation. So could his small world also create a magnetic field? Chen Zhao tried to make his small world spin. No, it wasn't enough. His immortal power wasn't strong enough. He couldn't make his small world spin on its own. Chen Zhao returned to the mansion and tried again. He needed more immortal power. He needed the small world and his own immortal power to form a cycle. Only in the mansion and with the spiritual qi from Old Turtle's internal alchemy could Chen Zhao replenish his immortal power faster. Chen Zhao absorbed the spiritual qi faster. The small world started expanding again. Chen Zhao felt that he'd grasped a certain point. It still wouldn't work. The small world had expanded, but there was no difference in essence. He needed a core. The rotation and cycle had to be completed through this core. By the way, what if there was a sphere similar to the earth in his body? If he followed this train of thought, would it be an internal alchemy? Chen Zhao never lacked courage when it came to trying. Huge amounts of immortal power started circulating rapidly. Every cell in his body was activated. What was an internal alchemy? It was actually a pure gathering of energy. The immortal power started gathering, compressing, and compressing again. Gradually, a rice-sized sphere formed in Chen Zhao's dantian. Did I succeed? When Chen Zhao relaxed, the sphere instantly collapsed. Fuck. I failed. Chapter 1623. Something was missing. Without control, the immortal power couldn't be formed at all. As soon as he relaxed, the internal alchemy would collapse. Chen Zhao couldn't maintain the internal alchemy with his willpower forever. Unless he never slept. But even if he didn't sleep, he would still be mentally tired. He was still missing something important. How did Old Turtle form the internal alchemy? How about using the dark lava to strengthen it? Chen Zhao tried the second time. First, he used the dark lava to form a spherical container in his dantian. Then he injected the immortal power into it. But the effect wasn't as good as the first time. The spherical container made of dark magma suddenly exploded, and the dark magma instantly dispersed. Damn, it still didn't work. Another failure. How did Old Turtle form his internal alchemy? Unfortunately, Old Turtle was in seclusion. Chen Zhao couldn't even talk to him. Chen Zhao was worried that entering the river diagram would disturb Old Turtle. So, he could only explore by himself. Chen Zhao suddenly thought of an idea. An idea that wasn't really a solution. An idea that even Chen Zhao wasn't confident in. If he wanted to form an internal alchemy in his dantian, he had to be able to compress his own power. Chen Zhao didn't lack this, but he lacked how to maintain the internal alchemy. He had to maintain the internal alchemy. The dark lava didn't have such powerful restraints. What if it was an alternate space? He could create an alternate space in his dantian. Chen Zhao's guts were boundless. After thinking for a while, Chen Zhao tore a hole in his elixir field. Then he created a space the size of a finger. Next, he compressed the immortal power. The immortal power kept gathering and compressing. Particles formed again, but this wasn't enough. He had to continue compressing. The particles grew until they were as big as the alternate space. Chen Zhao released his control. The internal alchemy expanded, but it instantly touched the barrier of the alternate space. It didn't collapse again. Success! Chen Zhao was delighted. Suddenly, someone patted his shoulder. Chen, you've been sitting here for more than 10 hours. Do you want breakfast? Chen Zhao was stunned. More than 10 hours. More than 10 hours had passed already. No need, Chen Zhao said. Call me again at 3 in the afternoon. Okay, do you want to rest? No need. Chen Zhao meditated again. Next, he opened up a few openings in the alternate space, allowing the internal alchemy there to connect with his immortal power. This process was much easier than compressing the inner core. Next was to let the inner core spin and use the inner core to move the small world. Under the control of Chen Zhao's telekinesis, the internal alchemy began to spin slowly. The small world began to spin as well. Not fast enough. He needed to be faster. Chen Zhao sped up the internal core's rotation, but the small world's speed didn't seem to increase much. The speed of the inner core was obviously faster than the small world. Because of this, the friction between the inner core and the small heaven and earth produced a magnetic field. Suddenly, Chen Zhao's mind cleared up. The small world began to expand rapidly. Every time it pulsed, the small world would expand by several meters. It grew all the way to 200 meters before it stopped growing. If he wanted the small world to continue growing, the internal alchemy had to expand as well. Was this the core formation of the immortal cultivators? The moment Chen Zhao opened his eyes again, he saw a familiar face. Chen Zhao realized that his vision had completely changed. There was a layer of red smoke in the air. The further he looked, the fainter the red smoke became. Right below him was a patch of gold. The gold didn't come from under his feet, but from the old turtle's inner core that he saw in the basement. Although it was through the floor, Chen Zhao could still see it. Was that spiritual qi? Chen Zhao also saw how his small heaven and earth worked. Like a whirlpool, the spiritual qi was sucked in. Then it was processed and transformed into pure white energy. Finally, it was sent into his body and absorbed by his cells. Then it was absorbed and compressed by his cells, turning into immortal power. Chen Zhao raised his arm, wanting to grab the spiritual qi. Just then, a strange feeling appeared in Chen Zhao's mind. The spiritual qi didn't seem to reject him. They were gathering in Chen Zhao's palm. Ha! Chen Zhao didn't know what this strange sense of closeness was about. Could this be the elves' affinity with the elements? Chen Zhao wanted to see how much spiritual qi he could gather. Chen Zhao released his mind. Instantly, even more spiritual qi gathered in his palm. The spiritual qi wasn't absorbed by Chen Zhao. Instead, it gathered in a physical form. It was a huge ball of spiritual qi. Chen Zhao could even feel the terrifying power contained in this ball of spiritual qi. Chen Zhao hurled the spiritual qi out. But as soon as it left his hand, it dissipated and returned to the world. Chen Zhao's face darkened. Why wasn't it powerful at all? Chen Zhao thought that he developed another big move. But it was useless. It seemed that there were other tricks to controlling the spiritual qi. Chen Zhao wondered how elves could control the spiritual qi and use magic-like attacks. Chen Zhao thought for a moment and called Lila Gavich. Mr. Lila, are you free? Ha! Mr. Chen. How come you're free to call me? Lila Gavich was surprised that Chen Zhao would call him. Mr. Chen, do you want me to go to Moon Villa? If you're free. Chen Zhao didn't force him. He wasn't close to Lila Gavich. Lila wasn't his subordinate. Chen Zhao didn't have the right to order him. So, Chen Zhao treated him equally. Of course. It's my honor. Lila Gavich wanted to deepen their relationship. A while later, Lila Gavich arrived at Moon Villa. When he saw Chen Zhao, he was alarmed. Mr. Chen, do you have elf blood too? That feeling was too strong. Lila Gavich felt a sense of closeness to it. Chen Zhao also looked at Lila Gavich in surprise. He seemed different from last time. Did you use Amanda Dill's blood? Chen Zhao asked. I'm a big elf now, Lila Gavich said. Mr. Chen, you haven't answered my question. I didn't. I just found some tricks and used your elven talent. Chen Zhao didn't say it clearly. After a pause, Chen Zhao said, I invited you here mainly to ask you about how the elves use their talents. Chapter 1624. Lila Gavich was surprised. The elf's talent could be used as a reference. Who could explain this? Of course, this wasn't important. Chen Zhao had his own methods. What he used had nothing to do with him. Lila Gavich was more concerned about how he could benefit from Chen Zhao. Of course, Lila Gavich wouldn't tell him directly what he could benefit from. Chen Zhao could say that, but he couldn't. Mr. Chen, it's not hard to control the elements, but every elf has their own element. It's not something that can be learned in a short time. You have to comprehend it first. Only by knowing your element can you use the power of the elements. How do I comprehend it? It's a complicated process. I'll give you another portion of Armendadir's flesh later, Chen Zhao said. Lila Gavich chuckled. Mr. Chen, I'm not lying. It's indeed complicated, but after thousands of years, we've come up with a way to comprehend it. I don't have it with me now. I'll send a copy to your email when I get back. Okay. Chen Zhao nodded. You can go to the supernatural organization's headquarters and ask for a portion of Armendadir's flesh. Just tell them I said it. Chen Zhao wasn't afraid that Lila Gavik would go back on his word. He didn't dare to do that either. Even if he ran away, his people wouldn't be able to. Lila Gavik left as quickly as he came. He didn't think about bargaining with Chen Zhao. All he wanted was Armendadir's flesh and blood. And it was for his people too. He'd already used it once. There was no point in using it again. The method that the elf had come up with wasn't a secret among the elves. Even if he didn't work with Chen Zhao could get it from other channels. Or he could work with Mesco. That wasn't something he wanted to see either. So, Lila Gavik agreed without hesitation. In less than 2 hours, Chen Zhao received a document. Elven Talent, Enlightenment. Chen Zhao opened it. The introduction was rather detailed. At the beginning, it explained the elves' talents. Next was the development and use of the talents. Chen Zhao realized that the Elven Talent, Enlightenment, was very helpful to him. There were many elements in the air. The elements could be divided into 6 main attributes: water, earth, fire, wind, light, and darkness. They were different from spiritualists. Spiritualists didn't care about elemental attributes. They only cared about magical attributes. But for the elves, there was a huge difference. The environment also greatly affected the elves. For example, an elf who lived in a place with abundant water elements for a long time. In that case, their children would most likely be of the water element. Of course, this was not absolute. Some elves even had a second or third element. In order to know what attribute he belonged to, the first thing he needed to do was to control the elements and determine the color of the elements that were attracted to him. Every element had a different color representation. Water was blue, earth was dark yellow, fire was red, wind was green, light was gold, and darkness was black. Chen Zhao raised his hand and gathered the elements in his palm again. However, the elements gathered in Chen Zhao's palm were white. According to the colors of the 6 elements of water, earth, fire, wind, and dark, it didn't seem to be related to any of them. Chen Zhao was a little depressed. What was this? Chen Zhao picked up the phone again and called Lila Gavik. Mr. Lila, the elements I've gathered are white. What attribute is this? Mr. Chen. It has no attributes. What? Chen Zhao was speechless, but he still had some hope. No attributes. Isn't that awesome? Ha! Mr. Chen, you must be joking. No attributes. We sometimes have elves with no attributes, but apart from being slightly stronger than other elves, they're useless. Lila wasn't mocking Chen Zhao. He didn't think he had the right to either. But he thought that Chen Zhao was already strong enough. The elves' abilities were just icing on the cake for Chen Zhao. Mr. Chen, we don't have any ways to use elemental attributes, but I'm looking forward to you developing some. Chen Zhao hung up in anger. But after calming down, he fell into deep thought again. Was it because he himself was of no attribute? Or was it because humans all awakened elemental attributes? But there was no way to find out. After all, Chen Zhao was the only person in the world who could awaken. In ancient times, only the gods could do it. Chen Zhao thought about it again. In the myths and legends around the world, gods all had attributes. If the ancient gods were awakened humans, then humans actually had attributes too. Moreover, elves couldn't appear out of nowhere. Through his conversation with Lila, Chen Zhao knew that elves and humans could mate and have children. This meant that elves were also humans, or subspecies. Could the elves be the descendants of a certain god? Moreover, elves could evolve by using Amandadiel's blood. Amandadiel and elves were two different species. Why could Amandadiel's blood make elves evolve? There didn't seem to be any connection between the two bloodlines. Unless Amandadiel's blood had some elf evolution component. Chen Zhao thought of something else. Amandadiel was called the Son of Element and his father was an elemental lord. Was it possible that his father was also an awakened person? Or a dragon? It was very possible. Amandadiel was the son of an elemental lord. His bloodline was very close to that of an elemental lord. Elemental lords were also awakened, so Amandadiel's blood could stimulate elves to regress. So, did his blood have the same effect as an elemental lord? Chen Zhao was very curious. Of course, Chen Zhao wasn't interested in becoming Tripitaka's meat for the elves. He wouldn't go and show off to the elves either. His flesh and blood could make them evolve. That wouldn't be awesome. It would be stupid. Chen Zhao was more concerned about how to use the elemental attributes. Chen Zhao reached into the air. All the elements within a radius of several hundred meters were caught in his hands. Just like the legends, he could borrow the power of heaven and earth. This power was almost limitless. But for Chen Zhao, the elemental power without attributes was really depressing. Chen Zhao tried a few times, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't create enough destructive power. He couldn't even kill a normal person with this vast power in his hands. Chapter 1625. It was like holding a nuclear bomb in his hand. But it turned out to be a dud. Wasn't that infuriating? It couldn't be helped. So what if he was angry? No matter how angry he was, he had to hold it in. Just then, Fei Lai came to Chen Zhao's side. Chen, how did your hair grow so long? Is it magic? Chen Zhao touched his hair. He really didn't notice it before. His hair was actually past his waist now. Before, Chen Zhao had always kept his hair short. Chen, cast a spell on me too. I want to change my hairstyle. Chen Zhao's face darkened. Fine, he'd cast a life spell on Fei Lai. Delighted, Fei Lai ran back to her room and combed her hair. Chen Zhao felt the finger-sized internal alchemy in his body. The internal alchemy emitted a thick vitality. However, Chen Zhao's constitution didn't improve much. The biggest change was that the small world had expanded to 200 meters. It also spun along with the internal alchemy. The internal alchemy was like a planet, and the small world was the planet's atmosphere. Chen Zhao's strongest point was still his strength. Chen Zhao's strength was determined by his constitution. Forming the internal alchemy had made Chen Zhao's constitution grow a little. But it wasn't much. Compared to the growth of the small world, it wasn't even worth mentioning. Now that he had grasped the power of the world, his strength should have increased greatly. However, the power of heaven and earth was like chicken ribs to Chen Zhao. What was its use? Oh, if releasing it directly didn't have any effect, what if he absorbed it into his body? Chen Zhao had an idea and immediately tried. The moment Chen Zhao absorbed the spiritual qi into his body, the cells in his body started growing wildly. Chen Zhao realized that his body was growing rapidly. Chen Zhao realized that his growth had exceeded the limits of a normal person's body. Wow! Mom, come look at Dad. He's become a giant. Jerlin and the other children in the front yard all cried out when they saw Chen Zhao's body. Hearing the children's cries, Fei Lai ran out immediately. When she saw Chen Zhao, she was also surprised. By now, Chen Zhao had grown to 2 5 meters tall. But this wasn't his limit. Chen Zhao felt that he could still grow. Chen Zhao continued to try. Finally, when he reached 3.5 meters, Chen Zhao felt that his body had reached its limit. Phew. Chen, what spell is this? I've never seen you use it before. I just figured it out. Chen Zhao felt the changes in his body. Chen Zhao's height had only doubled, but his weight had increased tenfold. This also meant that the cells in his body had grown 10 times. At the same time, Chen Zhao's constitution also increased tenfold. Quickly dispel the spell, Fei Lai said. Chen Zhao looked down. His clothes were completely torn. If certain parts of his body were to be exposed in front of the children, he would become a pervert. Chen Zhao immediately dispersed the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. The growing cells started dying quickly and the nutrients were devoured by the original cells. His body returned to its original size, but it felt like he had grown another centimeter or two. Chen Zhao felt stronger than before. It seemed that the process of infusing the spiritual qi of heaven and earth into his body did not cause any burden to his body. On the contrary, it was good for the body. Uncle, how did you do that? Wow, Uncle, why don't you do it again? I still want to see. Daddy, I also want to learn to grow bigger. I also want to learn. Chen Zhao didn't want to care about these noisy kids. Chen Zhao only wanted to change his clothes now. After changing, Chen Zhao finally heaved a sigh of relief. That had been too awkward. Thankfully, there were no outsiders. It was fine for the kids to see him. However, he still had to be careful. After all, Ronnie and Vera were almost 6 years old. Chen Zhao looked at the time. It was about time. After tidying up, he took Ronnie, Vera, Faith, and Jerlin to Risvar's house. Because Jerlin was also going to stay at Risvar's house for a few days, Jerlin packed some clothes and daily necessities. Black Ma, White Ma, Princess, Briar, Bramble, Simba, and Nana would also go to accompany the kids for a few days. So, Chen Zhao had to drive the RV. Mingyue Villa wasn't close to Risvar's manor. It was at least an hour and a half drive. When Chen Zhao arrived at Risvar's manor, it was almost 5 o'clock. By then, many people were already at Risvar's house. The 4 little fellows and a group of pets had just opened the door and rushed out of the car. They didn't care if they would cause trouble for the guests. They were all little devils anyway. On the other hand, Chen Zhao parked the car slowly and got out. As soon as he got out, he saw a sports car fly past him. He wasn't unfamiliar with the person in the car at all. It was Sun Min. Sun Min's sports car stopped and she walked up to Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao, why are you here? I have something to do, Chen Zhao said casually. Sun Min glanced at him. She realized that Chen Zhao's clothes didn't fit him. She'd heard from Ms. Li that Chen Zhao was doing well abroad. It seemed that Chen Zhao had been bragging. He was probably worried about losing face. Sun Min was very understanding. She felt that her guess was correct. Chen Zhao must have had a bad life. Otherwise, he wouldn't not even have a set of clothes that fit him. Chen Zhao, if you come back to China in the future, I might be able to help. Thank you, Chen Zhao replied indifferently. Sun Min wasn't surprised by Chen Zhao's rejection. In the past, when they were dating, Chen Zhao had been a bit stubborn. Even if he ran into a wall, even if his head bled, he wouldn't turn back. Chen Zhao didn't know about Sun Min's rich inner thoughts. If there's nothing else, I'm leaving. Chen Zhao strode away. Sun Min thought that Chen Zhao was probably an employee here. He was probably rushing to work. Sun Min also gave up on catching up with Chen Zhao. Not long after, Chen Zhao met Zola. Chen Zhao didn't expect to see her here. Actually, Zola and Risvar had met at Chen Zhao's party. "Hi, Chen." Zola walked up and greeted Chen Zhao familiarly. But when she walked up to Chen Zhao, she frowned. "Chen, the clothes you're wearing were designed by my company's designer, right?" I think so." Chen Zhao nodded. "What's wrong? Which asterisk shoal designed it for you?" Chen Zhao immediately realized that his clothes didn't fit due to his accidentally developing body. This caused Zola to misunderstand. "Zola, I was actually very satisfied with these clothes, but my body seems to have grown a bit recently. That's why they don't fit." "Really?" Zola asked doubtfully. Chapter 1626. Zola didn't care that it was public. She walked up and pulled Chen Zhao's arm. Then she spread her fingers and started measuring it. "Oh, it's really longer. It's about 2 centimeters." Hearing her words, Chen Zhao even suspected that she was a witch. She could even measure it. "You still remember my size?" Chen Zhao was surprised. Zola looked up and rolled her eyes. "What do you think?" "I'll have someone bring you a set of clothes," Zola said. After all, she was a clothes seller. Her words were so domineering. "Thank you. It wasn't that troublesome." The Baroness had a branch in Beverly Hills too. It was less than 2 kilometers away. Sun Min took a different path. But she still saw Chen Zhao and a woman in luxurious clothes walk into the RV. Sun Min's heart skipped a beat. Did her ex-boyfriend become a gigolo? Sun Min felt like her eyes were being polluted. She left angrily. Chen Zhao and Zola didn't care about other people's opinions. Chen Zhao wasn't a stranger to the clothes. Nat, Triss, and Cooper were all here. Of course, if it was just clothes, there was no need for the 3 designers. One runner was enough. However, Zola had asked the 3 of them to take Chen Zhao's measurements and then design some clothes for him. Chen Zhao's family's clothes were all provided by the Baroness. In return, Zola would often borrow Chen Zhao's pets. Previously, Zola had borrowed Chen Zhao's pets. She wanted to pay Chen Zhao. But Chen Zhao refused. Later, Zola used this method to exchange. Chen Zhao didn't object. Chen Zhao, Nat, Triss, and Cooper weren't strangers. This was especially true for Knight. That assistant of his had gone missing and had never been seen since. When Nat learned that he needed to design clothes for Chen Zhao, he was fully armed and even brought his toolbox. "Chen, your body is really amazing." Nat caressed Chen Zhao's chest. His broad chest was filled with male hormones. Chen Zhao shuddered. He knew Nat's sexual orientation. He didn't discriminate against gays, but he still had the instinct of repulsion. "Nat, put your hand down or I won't be able to stop myself from beating you up." Chen Zhao felt his hair stand on end. "All right." Nat licked his lips. Either intentionally or unintentionally, Triss also brushed her finger across his body. Chen Zhao wasn't against taking advantage of women. Zola sat on the side with her legs crossed. "Chen, give me a copy of Fei Lai's training schedule too," Zola said. To be honest, the last time Zola went to Jerlin's birthday party when she saw Fei Lai, she was really shocked. She really couldn't tell that Fei Lai had just given birth. Her figure was so perfect that not a single flaw could be found. Most importantly, her skin was still like that of a young girl. Zola knew how good Chen Zhao was at taking care of himself. And she herself was also a beneficiary. That was why he envied Fei Lai for having such a man. Any woman would care about her appearance. Who doesn't want to stay young forever? To be honest, Zola was very jealous of Feilai. If she were 10 years younger, she would definitely compete with Feilai. I'll check your body later, Chen Zhao said. Then I'll give you a plan. Zola, Chen, I've taken your measurements. Chen, can you tell me how you did your second puberty? Cooper asked curiously. Cooper was also a bodybuilder. He thought that Chen Zhao must have gone through some kind of training. I had surgery to lengthen my bones, Chen Zhao lied. Cooper shrugged helplessly. He obviously knew that Chen Zhao was lying. Since Chen Zhao wasn't willing to tell him, there was nothing he could do. After changing his clothes, Chen Zhao felt much more comfortable. After all, no one liked wearing clothes that didn't fit. Chen Zhao held Zola's arm and entered the front yard of the manor. By now, there were already many guests. Hi, Zola, Chen. Laura walked over from the crowd. Chen Zhao and Zola kissed Laura's cheeks. Laura and Zola had gotten to know each other at Chen Zhao's party. After that, the two became even closer. They could be considered best friends. Chen, Roni said that you can do magic and become a giant. It's just a performance. Chen Zhao shrugged. I've done a lot of preparation for this performance. Don't expect me to perform for you again. Alright. You and Feilai have worked hard. Just thank you. Then if you like any girl at the party today, just take her home, as long as you're not afraid of Feilai, Laura teased. Okay. I'll go find some prey. Chen Zhao waved goodbye to Laura and Zola and walked in another direction. Coincidentally, he saw another familiar person, Lucy. Hi, Lucy. Chen, I'm so happy to see you. Lucy had been doing well in Hollywood recently. Chen Zhao also discovered that Lucy starred in a mid-budget movie that had been released recently. It wasn't a blockbuster, but from the box office alone, it should be able to break even. It seemed that this actress from Australia had gained a foothold in Hollywood. At least it wouldn't be like before, where a fashion designer could do whatever he wanted to her. How have you been? Chen Zhao asked politely. Same old. Can you ask Mr. Steven for a role for me sometime? Ha. I can't control Steven when it comes to movies. Lucy chuckled. She knew very well how close Chen Zhao and Steven were. Of course, even if Chen Zhao rejected her now, she wouldn't give up on Chen Zhao. If there was a chance in the future, she could still use him. Moreover, she owed Chen Zhao a debt of gratitude. Sun Min, who was standing on the balcony on the second floor, suddenly noticed Chen Zhao. He's still here. Why does the woman he's talking to look so familiar? By the way, isn't that woman the female lead of the recent Giggle Girl? When Sun Min came to America, she'd even gone to the cinema and watched the movie. The movie wasn't very exciting. However, she had a deep impression of Lucy, who was the female lead. From their actions, they seemed to know each other very well. Was the female star also Chen Zhao's customer? Sun Min was confused. If that was the case, she had to look at Chen Zhao in a different light. Just then, another beauty walked to Chen Zhao's side. To Sun Min's surprise, it was also a female star who had acted in Steven's movie. She seemed to be called Yafan, right? Chapter 1627. Everyone in Hollywood knew that Yafan and Lucy were publicly acknowledged as sisters and best friends. However, everyone knew that there were no true sisters in Hollywood. This sentence was very suitable for Yafan and Lucy. The two female stars were both very pretty and had similar careers. Plus, they'd played the second and third roles in the same movie. So, they both maintained their own personas in front of the public. Plus, their statuses were similar. So, they tried their best to pretend to be good sisters. Hi, Chen, long time no see. Yaofan hugged Chen Zhao warmly. Yaofan, did you forget about Chen's little princess birthday party? Lucy seemed to be joking, but there was a hidden needle in her smile. Zhilin's birthday party had only been less than 2 weeks ago. Chen Zhao had invited the two of them before. Yaofan hadn't come back then, but Lucy had. But Yaofan had been filming overseas. Chen Zhao expressed his understanding. Yaofan wouldn't distance herself from Chen Zhao. After all, Yaofan knew Chen Zhao and Steven's relationship very well. She'd relied on Chen Zhao's recommendation and guidance. That was how she'd made a name for herself in Steven's movie. If she could come, Yaofan wouldn't have missed Chen Zhao's invitation. Chen, I want to lose weight. When will you come to my house and help me treat it? When Yaofan and Chen Zhao first met, Yaofan had wanted to gain weight and participate in Steven's movie audition. Plus, they'd had sex the first time they met. Your body is perfect now. You don't need to lose weight anymore. Really? I'm wearing clothes now. Can you tell? Do you want to go somewhere else and look again? Anyway, both Lucy and Chen Zhao knew each other very well. Yaofan didn't care about what she said at all. Her words were even more unrestrained. Never mind. Chen Zhao chuckled. He knew how unrestrained Yaofan was. When he'd first met her, she'd already done it with him. Of course, he wasn't a good person back then either. He was also unrestrained. Yaofan knew her limits. Seeing that Chen Zhao rejected her, she didn't continue teasing him. Instead, she chatted with Chen Zhao about trivial matters. Lucy was not a fuel-efficient lamp either. She had a very accurate grasp of the situation. Chen, this is a jade pendant I asked someone to buy in China. I wanted to give it to Zhilin at her birthday party, but the international delivery was a few days later than planned. I didn't make it in time for Zhilin's birthday party. Now, I can only ask you to give it to Zhilin. Also, please apologize to her for me. Lucy took out a jade pendant from her handbag. Chen Zhao didn't know much about jade, but he could tell from the texture that it wasn't cheap. Thank you. Since it was a gift for his daughter, he had no reason to reject it. However, Chen Zhao was surprised that Lucy would carry the jade pendant with her. Lucy smiled like an epiphyllum, and Yaofan was naturally unhappy. Of course, both of them were women who were good at putting on a front, so they wouldn't reveal any of their thoughts. It was not a good feeling to be sandwiched between two black roses. I saw an acquaintance over there. I'll go and say hello. You guys take your time. Chen Zhao left like he was escaping. He really saw someone he knew. Chen Zhao dashed to Amira's side. Hey, Amira, long time no see. Amira glanced at Chen Zhao, somewhat unhappy. Chen, I've invited you to my party a few times, but you didn't want to come. How come you're free to come to Risvar's party today? I'm not here to attend the party. I'm bringing my daughter to Risvar's house to play. Fine. Amira had always maintained a respectful distance from Chen Zhao. On one hand, Amira wanted to maintain a friendship with Chen Zhao. Sometimes, Chen Zhao's supernatural power could indeed solve a lot of problems for her. Moreover, Chen Zhao's business interests made Amira unwilling to cut ties with him. However, Chen Zhao's supernatural power also made Amira somewhat fearful. She had seen Chen Zhao fight twice. Both of them had left a deep impression on her. The first time was the Irvine incident. She had seen the legendary angel of plague and death. The second time was when her father's factory had a problem. Of course, Amira would never show any disrespect before Chen Zhao. Whether it was for business or personal reasons, Amira was trying her best to maintain a good relationship with Chen Zhao. What are you going to invest in next? Can you let me know in advance? Amira joked. Chen Zhao had only invested twice. One was Marina Restaurant, and the other was Dashan Beer. These two investments had directly increased Chen Zhao's current wealth. It had increased his wealth by at least 10 times. If Dashan Beer went on the market, Chen Zhao would definitely become one of the richest people in the world. Of course, if Chen Zhao really wanted to invest in something, he definitely wouldn't let anyone know in advance. Who would leak their business plans for no reason? No matter how good their relationship was, they wouldn't do that. If I really want to invest in something next time, I'll definitely let you know immediately. Sun Min stood on the balcony of the second floor and looked at Chen Zhao's figure. Could it be that this guy has a foot in several boats? He's a gigolo here in America. However, could the people of the United States appreciate the faces of the East? Does Chen Zhao have the potential to be a gigolo here? Sun Min's mind was running wild. How come she hadn't realized before that Chen Zhao actually had this ability? He could still act so casually among so many rich women. Also, he's too daring. He's actually related to so many women at the same party. If he was exposed now, she didn't know how he would deal with it. Just then, Risfar walked to Sun Min's side. Miss Sun, have you been here the whole time? Yes, Sun Min said, smiling. I'm not used to this kind of place. Ha. I understand. I have a friend who's like you. Actually, you're from the same country. I'll introduce you too if there's a chance. Sun Min thought that Risfar was just being polite. Oh, the friend I mentioned also came to the party, but I don't know where he went. Chen Zhao was in the garden downstairs, but because there were too many guests, Risfar couldn't find him. Sun Min's heart jumped. Was Risfar talking about Chen Zhao? Mr. Risfar, what does your friend do? He's a professor at UCLA. Of course, he's also a successful businessman. Anyway, I've never seen anyone better at making money than him. Oh, I'd like to meet him if I have the chance. Sun Min was sure that it couldn't be Chen Zhao. Found him. He's there. Chapter 1628. Sun Min froze. Apart from Chen Zhao, she didn't see anyone else with an Asian face. I'll introduce you to him. Maybe your company will have a chance to work with him in the future. Connections weren't always useful if you needed them immediately. Some connections might not be useful for years or decades. But when you needed them, you wouldn't be able to find them. Connections needed to be maintained and strengthened frequently. Sun Min did a good job in this aspect. She was also happy to meet more people and expand her network. Professional managers could earn hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars a year. They didn't know whether it was because of their ability or because they had connections. Even for the top few billionaires on Forbes, these professional managers also had the means to pass on a message. However, when Risfar brought Sun Min over to Chen Zhao, Sun Min panicked. It can't be him, right? It can't be him, right? Impossible, this was absolutely impossible. He's just a gigolo who lives off a woman. Hi, Chen. Risfar went up to greet them. Hi, Miss Amira. Let me introduce you. This is Sunday Miss Min, Chen, she's actually your compatriot. She's also from China. Miss Sun, this is Chen. Zhao, this is Amira, the manager of Citibank's Los Angeles branch. Chen Zhao's expression froze. Sun Min immediately went up. Hi, nice to meet you. No matter how chaotic Sun Min's heart was, she looked calm on the surface. She treated it as her first meeting with Chen Zhao. Hi. Chen Zhao played along and pretended not to know Sun Min. Amira shook hands with Sun Min too. Chen, Amira, what are you talking about? I want to buy some shares from Chen, Amira said, clenching her teeth. But he's not interested at all. She really had high hopes for Chen Zhao's Dashan Beer shares. But she'd bought it from the bank before. It didn't belong to her. Now, she wanted to buy some of Chen Zhao's shares in private. She didn't need a lot. Just 3% would be enough. But Chen Zhao was still unwilling. Amira, what's your price? 100 million for 1%, Amira said. Twice the market price. Her price wasn't low. In fact, it was quite risky. Sun Min's mind went blank. What shares did Chen Zhao have? 100 million US dollars for 1% of the shares. Did that mean that Chen Zhao had at least $100 million? How was this possible? He had only been abroad for a few years. How could he be so wealthy? What do I need so much cash for? Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. He now has more than $1 billion in his bank account. He finally understood the pain of a capitalist who had no capital and didn't know how to invest it. This was the money Citibank used to buy his shares. Moreover, it was because he had to pay in installments. Otherwise, he would have more cash. Didn't you order a super yacht from Seagate Yachts? I remember your budget is 320 million US dollars, right? Sun Min was dumbfounded by Amelia's words. Was Chen Zhao really that rich? A yacht costs 320 million US dollars. Then where was his real net worth? Sun Min couldn't imagine it, let alone believe it. Is Seagate so bad at protecting their customers' information? Chen Zhao frowned. Not everyone liked their information to be known by others. You can't blame Seagate, Amelia said. I also have a small number of shares. I also have a representative on the board. Fine, Chen Zhao said. But I won't sell my shares. I still want to invest. Chen, Risvar said. Dell and I plan to open 2 more hotel chains. Are you interested in joining us? Forget it. If you or Dell need cash flow, tell me. I'll lend you money. It's definitely lower than the bank's interest. Hey, Chen, Amelia complained. You're stealing my business right in front of me. That's not good. I already regret selling the 20% shares to your bank. Now I understand what it means to have too much money but no place to spend it. Sun Min couldn't interrupt at all. The conversation between the three of them and her was in a completely different dimension. At least, she couldn't understand Chen Zhao's words. What did it feel like to have too much money but no place to spend it feel like? Whether it was Chen Zhao, Amira, or Risvar, they were all the same. They were the kind of people who had too much money but no place to spend it. How about you sell Marina's restaurant to me? I'll pay $150 million, Amelia said. Amelia really coveted the 2 businesses under Chen Zhao's name. Both of his businesses were like golden chickens that laid eggs. No, even golden chickens couldn't compare. Both of those industries were printing money with their money printing machines running. Sun Min was shocked once again. Marina's restaurant. Sun Min had been there before. It was the most expensive restaurant in LA. She remembered that a few days ago, she'd met Chen Zhao again at Marina's restaurant. That restaurant actually belonged to Chen Zhao. No need. I don't want all the shares. Just 20% is enough, Amelia said seriously. Didn't you, Mr. Steven, and Mr. Rasfa invest in a movie together? I think it's going to be released soon. I heard that the North American theaters don't have a lot of showtimes. I have some connections in the theater industry. I can introduce them to you. Sun Min's eyes widened. Chen Zhao was involved in the film industry. And he was investing with the famous director, Steven. Wasn't that too unbelievable? What had he experienced in the past 2 years? That's a different matter. Amelia, if you can help us, I'll be very grateful. But I won't sell the shares of Marina's restaurant. Sun Min's gaze toward Chen Zhao had changed. This man was no longer the idealistic boy she'd known in the past. If she hadn't left him back then, would she still have all this now? Did he still have feelings for her? She'd invited him a few times for a gathering, but it was only because he still had feelings for her. Did he not know how to face her? Fine. I'll help you make an appointment with someone from the theater industry in a few days. Call Mr. Steven over. We'll meet at your Marina's restaurant. Thank you. I owe you another favor. Hey. Chen, Risfar. Just then, Dell walked over. There were a dozen models behind him. Risfar, look at how many beauties I've brought to your party. Aren't you grateful to me? Laura's at home, Risfar said in a low voice. Don't mess around. Chapter 1629. After Sun Min and Chen Zhao met again. Sun Min had always felt that Chen Zhao was still the Chen Zhao of the past. That mediocre Chen Zhao. He was a bit idealistic. He'd fled abroad after being defeated by reality. But she'd never thought about it. It had only been 2 years. Chen Zhao had become a billionaire without anyone noticing. He'd made friends with influential people that even she was dumbfounded. Even now, Sun Min's gaze toward Chen Zhao had changed. It seemed that after 2 years, the boy had become more mature and handsome. His chiseled face, his tall and strong body. His entire body radiated masculine hormones. Why hadn't she realized that Chen Zhao was so handsome before? Why hadn't she realized that he was so charming before? Risfar left first. He still had to greet the other guests. Yamala also went to greet the other guests. Only Chen Zhao and Sun Min were left. Sun Min glanced at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao, you seem to be doing well now. It's okay. Chen Zhao smiled. But Chen Zhao's smile was too fake. It was hard for Chen Zhao to be serious when facing Sun Min. But to Sun Min, the sentence was so piercing. All along, Sun Min had a kind of pride. Because her career had been advancing by leaps and bounds. She was also proud of the height she was at today. This was all because of her ability. She could do business that others couldn't. She could do work that others couldn't. But when she heard Chen Zhao say it was okay, Sun Min felt like she was going to collapse. He'd used 2 years to obtain more than 999% of the world's wealth. Was this okay? If he called it okay, then what was she? What was her hard work and struggle in the past 2 years? Did she have to become the richest person in the country or the world to be okay? If you come back, remember to contact me. Your classmates miss you. Let's get together. Chen Zhao nodded with a fake smile. The only person he could contact now was Ms. Li. His classmates miss him. Chen Zhao chuckled. He couldn't say that he didn't have friends in school. It was just that he didn't have any close friends. Plus, distance and time were enough to dilute the feelings in school. Chen Zhao even wondered if his classmates still remembered him. We'll see. I don't plan on returning to China in the near future. What? You've only been abroad for 2 years and you're already planning to become a banana man. Chen Zhao frowned. Sun Min also realized that she'd gone overboard. Chen Zhao didn't plan to argue with Sun Min. He didn't even intend to continue the conversation with her. I still have something to do. I'll take my leave first. Sun Min stared blankly at Chen Zhao's back. Chen Zhao would rather hang out with a bunch of bad friends. He didn't want to continue the conversation with Sun Min. It turned out that the woman he used to like would become like this. Del was sitting by the pool with two models in his arms. Chen Zhao walked to Del and gave him a can of beer. Seeing Chen Zhao, Del sent the model away. Chen, I heard from Faith that you performed a spell in front of her today. You can turn into a giant. Faith was very smart. Chen Zhao even suspected that it was because of those eyes. Although she was only 2 years old, Faith was smarter than Ronnie and Vera. She was also more mature and had a higher EQ. Moreover, Faith had learned some basic spells from Li Qing. She was even more talented than Del. But because of her age, Li Qing was worried that learning magic too early would affect Faith's development. So, she only learned some meditation now. What Chen Zhao had used wasn't magic at all. Chen Zhao didn't even think that his body would change like that. Luckily, other than Fei Lai, only Faith knew about it. Yes. Chen Zhao nodded. Del was a spiritualist now too. There was no need to hide it from him. You know that after Faith went home, she called her master and said that she wanted to learn the spell to turn into a giant. She said that she could grow up faster. Chen Zhao's face darkened. But there weren't any spells that could make a person grow bigger. At least in Immerse, there were a lot of enhancement spells. Many of them could make one's body grow bigger. For example, the big guy called Tank he'd met yesterday. He could make his body as big as the Hulk. I really can't teach that spell to Faith, Chen Zhao said. Plus, she's not strengthening. She can't cultivate this spell. Del also knew that Chen Zhao was telling the truth. Del wasn't just learning Qingyi sex spells now. At the same time, Chen Zhao tossed him a few magic books. He'd gotten them from Alice. Del wasn't very talented himself. But he wasn't without good points. For example, he had money. Sometimes, money could indeed make up for a lack of talent. Li Qing needed talismans, so Del bought a stack of the best ones for her. Del had also gone out to exorcise evil spirits. Regular spiritualists mostly used their own magic attacks to exorcise evil spirits. Del directly transported a ton of magic phosphorus and sprayed it into the haunted house. So, sometimes, you could do whatever you wanted with money. Just then, Chen Zhao's phone rang. Mr. Chen, are you free now? I've run into some trouble. It was Call On. What? Chen Zhao frowned. Those guys are causing trouble for you again. No, it's not convenient to talk over the phone. Where are you now? An industrial area in Norde. Okay, got it. I'll go over now. After hanging up, Chen Zhao turned to Del. Lend me a sports car. I'll drive an RV over today. Sure, go to my house. Get the keys yourself. Chen Zhao was also very familiar with Del's house. He'd introduced Del's housekeeper, Mary. All the servants in the house had seen Chen Zhao before too. Chen Zhao walked in and out of Del's house like it was his own. Chen Zhao went into Del's house and took the keys of a sports car. Then he headed to the industrial area in Norde. However, the industrial area was rather large. The factories here were all from the 70s and 80s. They were completely abandoned now. Now, this place had become a gathering place for gangs, and it was even a place for some people to conduct illegal transactions. The terrain was complicated and the area was large. It would be very difficult for the police to round them up. It would be very advantageous for the gang members to fight with the police or escape. When Chen Zhao was outside the industrial area, he called Call On again. I'm outside the industrial area. Where are you? Mr. Chen, do you see the 3 huge chimneys? They're the steel factory. I'm in the steel factory now. Chapter 1630. Chen Zhao found the steel factory. I'm here. Are you in the factory? Yes. In the past, Chen Zhao would still be careful everywhere. But now, he wasn't on his guard at all. When he was powerful enough, he could indeed ignore most threats in the world. At least, Chen Zhao felt that he couldn't unless someone dropped a nuclear bomb on his head. Otherwise, there was nothing in the world that could kill him. Chen Zhao pulled open the door of the steel factory. He saw Call On. He was in front of an upside-down crucible. There was another person there. He was also a spiritualist, but he was slightly older. Both of them were holding onto a chain. The chain was connected to the upside-down crucible. Banging sounds came from the crucible. Something seemed to be locked inside. Call On, what's going on? Chen Zhao asked. The other spiritualist saw Chen Zhao and asked, is he the helper you called? Yes. Call On nodded. Mr. Chen, there's a terrifying evil creature in the crucible. We've locked it inside, but we can't destroy it. Oh. Okay, let it out. I'll clean it up. Chen Zhao nodded. Hey, the evil spirit inside is really scary. It's not like the evil spirits you've encountered in the past. The spiritualist warned. I know what I'm doing. Release it. We tried so hard to trap this evil spirit. If you can't destroy it, we're done for. Are you sure you want us to let it out? Chen Zhao thought it was too long-winded, but the spiritualist had good intentions. Chen Zhao nodded. If it's dangerous, you can leave first. I'll count to 3. Call On, let go of the chain. Call On nodded. The spiritualist counted to 3. 3, 2, 1, let go. Call On let go instantly. The spiritualist's chain jerked violently. The chain shrank with a clatter and finally returned to the spiritualist's hand. Chen Zhao's eyes brightened. This chain was very similar to the magic treasures in novels. The chain shrank until it was like a thin rope, binding the spiritualist's wrist. The next moment, the upside-down crucible was knocked into the air with a clang. Mr. Chen, watch out. The crucible seemed to be smashing toward Chen Zhao's head. The spiritualist also cursed inwardly. Just then, Chen Zhao reached out and caught it. Chen Zhao took the crucible, which weighed 2 to 3 tons. The spiritualist's eyes almost popped out. What great strength! He's an enhancer, right? However, it was rare to see such a powerful enhancer. Seeing that Chen Zhao was unharmed, Call On heaved a long sigh of relief. He'd felt Chen Zhao's power when they sparred before. He had thought that Chen Zhao's power should be close to his limit. It seemed that Chen Zhao hadn't used his full strength. Chen Zhao's attention was on the evil spirit. Half of the evil spirit's body was covered in molten iron. There was also a pair of iron swords protruding from his elbow joints. It was very likely that this evil spirit had fallen into the molten iron and died. Therefore, his soul and the molten iron were almost completely compatible, and the molten iron covered the right side of his body and did not cool down. It was still emitting red heat, and at the same time, it looked even more tyrannical. The right side of its body was badly burned. This should be its original body. However, even though he was severely burned, he was still very strong. After all, to be able to send a crucible weighing a few thousand kilograms flying was enough to show how terrifying its strength was. Mr. Chin, what do you think? Can you handle it? Colin asked worriedly. After all, he had fought with this evil spirit before. He knew very well how terrifying this evil spirit was. Roar! The evil spirit let out a deafening roar. The spiritualist walked around the center and stood beside Chen Zhao and Colin. Be careful, this evil spirit can control metal. Is it like Magneto? Chen Zhao asked curiously, instantly intrigued. He doesn't have that much power. If he really had the power of Magneto in the movie, he would almost be equivalent to a god. At that moment, the evil steel spirit charged at the three of them. Kellen and the shaman quickly retreated. Only Chen Zhao stood where he was, facing the evil steel spirit's storm-like attacks. Chen Zhao raised his fist and punched the evil spirit's right shoulder. However, the moment it came into contact with the evil steel spirit's right shoulder, Chen Zhao felt a scorching heat on his skin. However, Chen Zhao's punch didn't stop. It sent the evil steel spirit flying. So strong. The spiritualist murmured in shock. Even this evil spirit isn't as strong as him. The evil steel spirit stood up again. It didn't seem to be injured. Chen Zhao shook off the molten metal on his fist. The evil steel spirit roared. The surrounding piles of metal started twisting and changing shape. It flew toward the evil steel spirit. When the metal touched the evil steel spirit's body, it immediately fused with it. Soon, the evil steel spirit's body grew several times larger. His entire body was like a transformer covered in patches. The spiritualist and Colin both looked worried. Chen Zhao lifted his head. His attention seemed to be diverted from the evil steel spirit. Mr. Chen, what's wrong? Colin asked. It seems like we're not the only ones here, Chen Zhao said. Other than us, there are others. The spiritualist was also shocked. At that moment, two fully armed evil steel spirits appeared. Colin's expression changed drastically. One evil steel spirit was already very difficult to deal with, but now there were two more. The two of them could barely protect themselves against one evil steel spirit, let alone three. Even with Chen Zhao, they couldn't do it, right? Mr. Chen, what do we do now? Colin, are you sure this isn't a trap you set for me? Mr. Chen, what are you talking about? How could I set a trap for you? Colin panicked. He wanted to explain, but he didn't know how. Just then, the spiritualist who'd been standing behind Chen Zhao shot out a chain and tied Chen Zhao up. Morgrid, what are you doing? Colin was shocked. Morgrid pursed his lips. You still don't understand. You only caught two spiritualists tonight. Just then, a woman's voice sounded from behind them. Hee. Two is enough, Morgrid said proudly. Plus, one of them is strengthening. It's definitely more effective to make an evil steel spirit than a regular one. A trap. Colin was shocked. Then why did you work with me to suppress that evil steel spirit? Of course it's to help you find reinforcements. I was hoping that you could find a few more, but you only found one. That's okay, the one you found is very good. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.